For those who may not be familiar with our organization, Parksville Downtown is a registered business improvement area, or a BIA. There are more than 80 BIAs across British Columbia and over 500 across Canada. BIAs are nonprofit organizations funded through a levy paid by property owners within the designated BIA boundary. While BIAs are established through provincial legislation, the City of Parksville provides oversight of our operations. Our mandate is to support the vitality of the downtown through marketing, events, and activations, beautification initiatives, and advocacy for our downtown businesses. Ultimately, our goal is simple: to help create a vibrant and welcoming downtown. We want a downtown where residents and visitors can enjoy a variety of shopping, dining, services, and places to gather. Our focus is always on building a downtown that first and foremost serves our community, while also recognizing the important role Parksville plays as a destination for visitors. In 2025, our total revenues came from several sources, including the BIA levy, our Forks and Tunes Food Truck Festival, associate memberships, and grants and sponsorships, for a total of $215,150. Our three largest areas of spending were advertising, events and activations, and our holiday and shop local programs. One of the most significant initiatives completed in 2025 was the community engagement project, Imagine Parksville Downtown, which was funded through our organization along with a REDIP grant from the province of British Columbia. The Imagine Parksville Downtown initiatives provided valuable feedback and ideas for the future of our downtown. While many opportunities were identified, one message came through clearly and consistently. Residents and businesses want to see downtown evolve while still protecting the natural beauty of our environment and the charm of Parksville's downtown character. We share that commitment. In 2025, we also restructured our holiday lighting program by concentrating our rooftop trees in one central area, creating a much stronger visual impact along Alberni Highway and Memorial Plaza. In addition, we were able to provide holiday lighting at no cost to our members along Highway 19, wherever exterior power was available. We also introduced 4 new events, including our Forks and Tunes Food Truck Festival and a series of activations in Memorial Plaza. Altogether, we estimate that more than 5,000 people attended downtown events in 2025. Our total expenses for 2025 were $215,150. Looking ahead to 2026, our operating budget is set at just under $235,000. Our primary revenue sources continue to be the BIA levy, the Food Truck Festival, and grants. Operationally, our focus this year is to increase investment in advertising and promotions, slightly reduce spending on events and activations, and expand our holiday programming in November and December. With the submission of our 2025 financial statements and our 2026 budget, we respectfully request distribution of the 2026 BIA levy. We understand that approximately 25% of that distribution will be provided in the near future, with the remaining balance anticipated later this summer. In closing, we would like to express our sincere appreciation to Mayor and Council, as well as City staff, for your continued partnership. Together, we are working toward a downtown that is economically resilient, welcoming, and vibrant. A downtown that supports our local businesses, serves our residents, and continues to attract visitors. We look forward to continuing this work in partnership with Council and staff as we help shape the future of Parksville Downtown. Thank you for your time today, and we would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Teresa. And that was quite an enjoyable video you got going there. Talk about vibrancy. Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, thanks very much for that. Council, any questions or comments for our delegation we have here today? Councillor Gore, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Teresa and Tammy, for the presentation. And just want to take the opportunity to say thank you to PDBA for the work that you folks do and are continuously doing to revitalize our downtown. Just a quick question. I was just looking at the budget. Seems like a very balanced budget that you're proposing. Room for any contingency in the budget? One thing before you answer that, I do want to mention, in addition to that, is also the food truck income. You're anticipating less compared to last year. Is there a reason?
If that's what it looked like, it's not correct. I will say that the budget was created prior to opening the registration of our food truck festival. And we built the budget at the least amount that we expected we would get. And as it turns out, we have double the number of trucks coming this year. So that's why I say it's not quite correct. What was the first part?
Yeah, any contingency in the budget, since
yes.
It's very balanced dollar to dollar.
Yes, we do have reserves that we hang on to. Just for emergencies, it's not something we dip into unless we know that we're replacing it. And so that's our reserves.
Yeah. Go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to reiterate the video is very good, that it shows and emphasizes shop local. And this is what we have to keep on saying continually, and people will gradually get it. So I wanted to mention that because that's what it did with all those different entrepreneurs there. It was excellent. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'd certainly like to add my thanks. And, we might not have oodles to say here, but that's because we did attend that AGM recently and had a chance to see it then and talk personally at that time. I wondered, though, if you could speak just a little bit about either the grant and some particular activities activities or incentives that you're hoping to put in place in the downtown area, whether that came out of the REDIP grant or part of the Imagine Parksville, because I don't think that came up in the video.
Thank you for that question, Councillor Beal. As you may know, we are sitting on pins and needles to find out if we get the next round of the grants that we're hoping to find out by the end of the month. If we are successful, we have a plan in place to rejuvenate the facades and rejuvenate the accessibility for the buildings in downtown Parksville. It's a $500,000 project, and I think it's going to make an incredible impact on the vibrancy and just the look of downtown Parksville. However, if we are unfortunate and do not get that grant, we have 3 other projects that we are writing grants for at the moment. And there is a part of the original grant, and if we don't receive it, we can pull back that money, and in partnership with the city, we can do some placemaking downtown, so make it look bright and cheery.
We can pivot.
Great. Follow up, go ahead.
Thank you for that. And again, thinking back to the AGM, but also I have had the good fortune of being an interim liaison to the Access Oceanside Association. So it was really great to see their presentation at your AGM, and really great to hear that improving accessibility, is a goal within the downtown area. And I know that a lot has been done with a lot of businesses, but I just really hope that that work will continue and that we will be, increasingly accessible to all.
That is our hope as well.
Cross your fingers for it.
Absolutely. Councillor Grants, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll echo everyone's comments around, thank you for the work you're doing in Parksville downtown. Lots of great improvements coming along. And I also appreciated being at the AGM, which I would invite the public to participate in as well, to come see what's happening downtown in Parksville. In terms of the grant pieces, are there any additional letters of support or anything that you would need from the city of Parksville? And if so, we're happy to provide that.
Thank you. You have for the grant that we are waiting not so patiently for. And each grant is different, Councillor Grants. And although we have the plans written, what we're doing now is just looking for the right grant opportunity. So once we determine what the requirements are for that specific grant, we'll be knocking at your door.
Excellent. We're eager to get that grant money into our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to both for the presentation. You guys do a great job downtown. I love to see you're working with the city staff and us keep working to make downtown more vibrant, beautiful. I think I told Dan King that at the AGM that it's kind of cheating to use the really cute little kids in the video because we're bought in as soon as we see them. But thanks for all the work that you do to bring more vibrancy to downtown. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for your support.
Thank you. No further questions. Thank you once again for your presentation from your very busy schedule. Thank you for joining us today.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary. It is. Okay. Thank you. Moving on, our next delegation is from the Parksville and District Chamber of Commerce, Visitor Information Center report.
Sorry for interruption, Mayor. There's recommendations that we need to vote on for this delegation.
Sorry. The recommendations for the levy, is it not coming up further or is it? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Oh, it's not in my suit. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. I was going off that. Thanks, John. If I could just put you on hold 1 second, gentlemen, we just want to clarify from the last delegation. We would like to do I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendations as noted, council? I'll read it out here since I didn't have it in front of me. So the Parksville Downtown Business Association 2025 annual report and financial statement be received, and that the Parksville Downtown Business Association 2025 budget be approved, and that 3, that staff be authorized to advance 25% of the levy funding to the Parksville Downtown Business Association as per Downtown Business Improvement Area Establishment Bylaw 2024, number 1592. If I could have a mover seconder for that, please. Moved by Councillor Beal, seconded by Councillor Martin. Any discussion?
Just a point of clarification.
Go ahead, Councillor Gordon.
Yes, thank you. I know. And it's 2026 budget, but you said 2025. Just wanted to clarify that for the record.
I'm reading faster than my brain can calculate. Budget 2026. 2026 be approved. Right. All those in favor? Thank you. That carries unanimous. Thank you so much. Thanks, Sean. Thank you. Now we have the next delegation is from the Parksville and District Chamber of Commerce, the Visitor Information Center report, a presentation by Dr. Omar Kareem and Mr. Barry McQuaw to present an evaluation of the past year's activities and present the next year's programs and budgets to council before March 31st, 2026, in accordance with the terms of the fee for service agreement. Gentlemen, thank you for attending today. You have 10 minutes for your presentation and welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity. We're in midstream right now and a lot of exciting things going on at the Chamber of Commerce. Our last member dinner meeting, we had 160 attendants. there's a number of new initiatives that have come towards the membership. And the biggest one probably has been the relationship with Vancouver Island University and the MBA intern program. At any given point in time, there will be 3 to 4 interns working on various projects for the chamber that are consistent with their education stream. And it's allowing us to do things that we simply didn't have the manpower or the skill set to do in the past.
Right.
We've got a number of events coming up. I'll let Omar speak to them in detail, but right now our membership is just about at the 400 mark, which is an increase. We're seeing new businesses and new members consistently. I spend a fair bit of time in the chamber office and visitor info center right now. And it's interesting, something that I've seen over the course of my years in this community, but we see couples that are out here vacationing and looking for information, and they are clearly looking to move. And so it's a pretty happy story and conversation to have with those people about, we all came here from somewhere and we're all here for the same reasons. And it continues to attract people who want to be here and enjoy what we call winter. So with that, I'll turn it over to Omar, and he can give you some of the specifics on our.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you, Barry. And I just want to take an opportunity to thank each and every one of you for, we're so grateful for the time to be able to provide an update about the work of the chamber. There's a lot that's happened since our last conversation when I first started, I think in mid-November. So we're excited to just show you a bit about the visitor services, but also relation to the chamber, some updates that we wanted to share with the city, the council around that too. So we'll go to the next part. This is our agenda for today. So we'll give a bit of an update related to the visitor services financial budget update. And then we'll just walk through some of these items of the agenda to showcase a bit about some of the work that we're doing around member services, supporting our local economy, our local businesses, a bit more around the youth lens of youth engagement and leadership in our community, community engagement and partnerships, and some updates related to branding and communications. So as you know, this was the budget. We are consistent with the budget that was provided by my predecessor, Liette, for the 2026 budget. We've had some other expenses that have come up in terms of the water tank kind of had a situation, so we had to replace that. And then our flagpoles and some other pieces around that. But the main update over here is we still have facility upkeep and improvements. The chamber is contributing an additional $20,000 a year to the space and to the visitor center services, and how we split up the budget. This is in particularly everything as it relates to the visitor center and the work that's being done there. We are happy to say this morning I was at the visitor center and we had about 15 people just coming in just in the morning. And I think as the weather is getting better, as we're seeing tourism, the impact of tourism on Vancouver Island, and in particular Parksville, I think with our new website as well, what we've done and how we've updated, we're seeing a huge influx of visitors coming in person now, learning about it, getting maps, learning about the different opportunities and tourism sites here in Parksville and District. So that's been really exciting to see. A few updates about the chamber. We've digitized our membership. So what's really important to mention around this is you no longer have to call in the chamber between Tuesday and Thursday. You can pay your membership directly from the comfort of your laptop or your phone or at home. That's been a big benefit for us in terms of the work that we've been doing. And coming towards some of the other support services. Not only do you have the chamber insurance plan, but we've actually incorporated new membership benefits, bringing AI technologies in place, such as Prop CMA for real estate agents, EduSite, which is helping provide our stories and narrative, helping promote local businesses to support them, to capture leads, to support their growth and accelerate their growth. And you'll see other benefits there. One in particular is our boardroom. And I want to commend our board chair, who is one of the members who physically painted the boardroom in the visitor center to create a space where businesses can operate. They can have a place where we can come together. You want to expand your business to Parksville? come and join us. Let's have a conversation. If you're a remote business in Parksville and you need a place to work or a place to meet your clients, we now also have a location in addition to that. We are really excited to announce our new Entrepreneur Hub. We have 4 projects that we are working with in partnership with different universities. So right now, Vancouver Island University is one of the partners. We intend to involve institutions like University of Victoria, Royal Roads University, Camosun College, North Island College, and really creating a place of talent retention for the city of Parksville and also Parksville and District. So these are some of the organizations that we're working with right now in its pilot phase. And we have, as Barry had mentioned, some of our MBA students. This opportunity of the Entrepreneur Hub is some of our businesses, and as we were talking to some of our businesses, not all businesses have large budgets to have someone to do your social media for about X amount of dollars, let's say $5,000 or more. But maybe there's opportunities where we can create a mutual beneficial relationship between student learners to businesses and entrepreneurs to help accelerate, to create some sustainability and systems that allow businesses to continue that growth and then to pass over to an ability to that member who offers that service. So what we're really excited to have is we launched an Entrepreneur Hub with the Parksville and District. And it's the only hub out of all chambers in British Columbia. So really happy to say this is something that makes our district really unique and meaningful in terms of how we accelerate and grow our local economy. Another new initiative that we'd like to share is we launched a youth member pass. And I really want to commend some of the city council members that were actually at this event. I know that Councillor Wood and Councillor Gar were there at the last event, and everyone over here has actually met in person, and we just want to acknowledge every single person's support because you've all showed up in different lenses in different ways. Even through Councillor Grenz and Beal and Martin, we were able to connect with Charlene from the Parksville Community Foundation that was our keynote speaker at this event to promote that foundation, talk about the benefits of that as well. But in terms of this, we have a youth engagement program called the Youth Member Pass. This is for ages 13 to 30, and it's really important for us as we're engaging youth to think about entrepreneurship at a young age to transition into their pathway to create their own businesses here in Parksville and District. And so these are some of the opportunities our Youth Member Passes will also receive. As you may know, we talked about this, launching that podcast. So this is the result of what we've said. We put a vision together, and now this is a demonstration of the vision actually occurring. Really amazing to see Teresa. I know she was here previously, also featured in our podcast, and more podcasts to come. And the podcasts are actually housed at the Visitor Center, hosted by youth to learn a little bit about our membership, learn about the narratives and stories in our Parksville and District community. If you're talking about this past year, we've had multiple events. And if you look at our calendar events now on our new website, you will see what events are happening now till the end of May to June, so that this is an opportunity for folks to block off those dates on their website, from our website, and to be able to attend some of the amazing opportunities that we've had over the last 4 months and continuing to have in the next bit coming up as well. Some of the highlights, as Barry had mentioned, we had our welcome back and chamber appreciation dinner. 160 plus participants, was amazing. You'll see our new member breakfast. We have lunch and learns monthly, business after business, and we had an amazing governance workshop to help nonprofits in terms of learning a bit more about how to be more efficient in terms of our governance and how we can learn best practices and strategies. Some of our upcoming events, and we'd like to thank the city of Parksville and Councillor Beal and for putting the motion last meeting around their support for the Citizens of the Year Award. We're excited that the Business Excellence Awards Gala is happening. We will be inviting members of this council to participate in the selection of that award. So just want to make sure everyone is aware about that. But the Business Excellence Awards Gala will be held on April 9th. We brought that back after about 2 or 3 years, I believe so. And our golf tournament will be held on May 29th. feel free to scan the QR code if you're watching this live or in the audience, or if you're watching this post as a recording, you can scan our QR code, and we have relaunched a new website, new branding, showcasing the meaning and purpose here of Parksville. You'll see the beach. You can explore the Parksville and district. You can view our events. You can join the chamber and learn more about your benefits. And I'm just about done. Our last slide here talks about our new initiatives. And so I know from Councillor Martin, I know that when I was here that first day, you talked about a volunteer program. And so we actually did that. We launched a volunteer program. Today, we have some volunteers running our visitor center. So we're really excited to have a complement of volunteers in our staffing to be able to provide an opportunity for our visitor center to stay more open and to be a place or a hub of not only services, learning about our district, but of entrepreneurship as well. We also will be launching in the upcoming year an ambassador visitor training program. Essentially, it's a program where folks in the hospitality industry can get a micro credential or a digital badge to learn about the services in Parksville, some of the tourism sites in Parksville, understanding a little bit of the context of the Indigenous culture here that we're a part of and the lands that we stand. So this is upcoming, it's in development, lots of work to be done there. But you'll see over here a revamp of the visitor center webpage. It showcases the hours of operation when we're open, announcements, updates, and we've also created pages where you can explore opportunities of the district as well. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
You got a lot of words in there, Omar. Well done. First off, I want to say you've made amazing advancements, in this past year. And so for that, congratulations and thank you for that. It's a lot of hard work and dedication you put into this, and it shows. I was particularly impressed also as you identifying the fact that here we are. I know it's spring break, but we had visitors at the Visitor Information Center, people from out of town, like looking for what kind of services and amenities we have here in Parksville already, and that is a really good sign. And it also speaks to the other concern, of course, our visitor information centers like Passe. Is everybody using Google Maps now and the internet? You've proven that is to be a very important part of the entire program to attract tourists to our area. So thank you for revitalizing that and actually comprising some of the members with volunteers, which is just speaks a lot about the community that these people are visiting as well. So well done. I think that's you extremely proceeding down the right track. And I look forward to more things. Your increased enrollment as well as speaks volumes as to the professionalism that you're bringing to our community. So well done. Thank you. Open that up to council. Any other comments? Councillor Martin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's quite remarkable, Omar. You were speaking in those, for your 10 minutes or whatever, but what has happened since November, really, since you've been on board. So thank you very much. And we look forward to the gala and a few other things going on. So thanks again. No questions.
Any further comments? Go ahead, Councillor Grants.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to the delegation. First of all, let me welcome the new president, Barry. Thanks for coming aboard. Appreciate all your work already. And thank you, Omar, and the team for all the efforts that you've put in over the last several months. It's really been great to see. And one thing I do want to emphasize is how you're working on developing relationships across with different organizations in our community, because there's lots of opportunity to get synergies from working together. And I really appreciate the efforts you're putting in on that front. With regard to the visitor center piece, could you maybe give a little bit more of a sense of kind of like your future vision for the visitor center? You've touched on a few things that, you've got the new podcast studio happening there. You've got the boardroom. So you're looking to use the visitor center for more than just a visitor center, which is great. In terms of the visitor center piece, are there other opportunities you're exploring to enhance the visitor experience coming to the visitor center?
100%. So what I would say is, as of now, the next steps, what we see where the visitor center could be or where we could go is there's going to be some updates internally with the visitor center of how we can showcase local artists actually in the visitor center as well. So that's kind of another iteration that we're on the next phase, I would say, what we're going to come to. The other, I think the other aspect is how do we continue to collaborate within this community? And so we have an amazing museum right beside us, a park right near us. So, let's say we're rebuilding ourselves, we're reimagining ourselves, we're at a really good place, we're on track to do really, really well for the chamber this year. And so I think the next step is, what does it mean to collaborate with our next door neighbors in a really meaningful way that creates more attraction to the visitor center, more presence, and then continuing with the podcast, 100%. And then also looking at the visitor center as an event space. If people would like to do a kind of a networking event at the visitor center, it's beautiful inside there. What does it look like for us to showcase local organizations and employee appreciation? So something we're going to get to. So I'll keep it to that. And the last part I would mention is about that training piece. I think that's really important. A lot of people come to Parksville, and I know that even for people who are even local, like from Nanaimo or Qualcomm or even up from Port Alberni, but they don't know about some of the amazing facilities and spaces that we have here. Even some of the frontline staff may not know that in some of our hospitality organizations. So really want to create consistent branding that we're all saying the same thing. And so I think the training piece is going to be a big priority for us in the upcoming year.
Go ahead,
Thank you.
Councilor Gross.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
Just
Oh,
to
sorry,
add
go
to
ahead.
that, though, is the visitor center only works when it's staffed. And so we're utilizing a variety of people so that the doors are open.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Thank you for that. And I'm very appreciative of your comments around working with your neighbors, which is a great opportunity there. I think to turn the visitor center into more than just a washroom stop for people coming into the community. So appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Yes. Any other comments? Councilor Beal? Councilor Beal, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'd like to add my thanks and congratulations to you, Omar, and to you, Barry, and also please pass along my thanks to the board as a whole, because, it's obviously a work of many and working towards that vision and taking advantage of opportunities that are there. I'm also really pleased to see the partnerships that you're working on and developing, and hopefully along with that, there will be even better and more expanded communication with other organizations. There are things that come up, there are things that you've referenced that I see bits and pieces of that within some other organizations. So as you become even more solidly grounded in that space, I would hope that others can join in with you if they haven't already, and work towards a vision. And as you say, that everyone understands and is working from the same page. So congratulations to you, and also to the board and to the many interns. It's so wonderful. When I do stop by there, there are always different people, different ages. It's great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Councilor Gore, go ahead.
Thank you. Game show, Omar. My question to about the visitor information center. And the question, like, we have a relationship based on that information center, fee for service, and utilize the space. In terms of calculating the number of visitors coming to the information center, can you probably speak to the methodology? Like, hey, it's somebody out of town that you count as, yes, one person came in, or is it somebody even from within Parksville boundaries or in the area coming stop by to, let's say, use the washroom is counted as, hey, we had a visitor come in. Just want to get an idea of calculations on the numbers.
I think you answered that beautifully. There's different aspects of how we capture visitors. What I'm speaking about in the current aspect is actually people walking the door, asking questions about Parksville, but we do also capture stats of folks using the washroom, so it's kind of all different aspects. But what I have noticed, to be honest, is the fact that when we revamped our website and it kind of improved our SEO for the visitor center online when people are searching Parksville and district. So that's helped increase more visitors to the center. And then the podcasts. At the beginning of every podcast, we say where we're located. And so I think that's people have been noticing, hey, we heard about this podcast. Is this the place? And then they learn about the visitor center that way. So I think there's just different avenues, but we do have like a system of capturing that as folks walk in for any of those aspects that you'd mentioned.
Great.
I can add one comment.
Go ahead.
One of the things I've noticed in being there as frequently as I am right now, there's a lot of local residents that do not know where the Chamber of Commerce is. They know where the Visitor Info Center is. And so it's interesting that it's pointed out another objective for us.
Councillor Wood, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. Omar, through to yourself and with Mava and the board. It is unreal, the change that we've seen here at the council table with the Chamber of Commerce. Just unreal. That appreciation dinner was so busy. I couldn't believe it. Huge thanks to the work that you and the board are doing, and Mava as well. I'd love to see, the chamber working with the Downtown Business Association, working with the Tourism Association, working with city staff and everybody working together. And just the change in positivity that I've seen is just unreal. So thank you very much to you both. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Beal, follow up.
Thank you, Mayor. One other item or event that we certainly think of when we think of the chamber is the Summer by the Sea Market, Craig Street. And seeing as how this might be the once a year that you're here, I wonder if there's anything that you can say about the upcoming season, and if once again we can all be looking forward to not having to make dinner on Tuesdays.
So I would say, please don't make dinner on Tuesdays. Summer by the Sea Market, we're already planning for it. Rosalind Laster, who helped led it, did a fantastic job. We are also meeting with some vendors to hear feedback of how we can also take it forward to be even better. We're looking at certain areas for youth entrepreneurship where kids and students can actually have their own booths. Just to kind of encourage that kind of feel in our district, but also it will be happening and we're already planning it. If anyone who is listening to this today is interested in around submitting your applications, they will be available at the end of March. And so that's when the applications will open for vendors, and we're getting a lot of people interested. So it's going to be amazing. We're excited. Yeah.
Follow up, go ahead.
Thank you. That's a limit. I only get to speak 3 times.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, and I believe that last year or a previous year, there was also a space for a nonprofit to present. And is that in the works again this year?
100%. Yes. Staying consistent with best practices. What we heard really worked well. So there will be a space for nonprofit to be able to have a space as well. 100%. And a rotation of that as well. Yeah.
Is that all, Mary? Okay. Thank you very much. And I just want to also mention, I learned here that your collaboration with the Parksville Museum is so important. You both share a very vital location, a gateway location to our community. And first impressions mean so much to our visitors and those perhaps wishing to relocate to Parksville, as you mentioned anyways, to open up the businesses and create a life here in Parksville. It has to be done in a professional manner. The Parksville Museum has done an incredible job of transforming their location. You are in that process as well. And so the two of you at that gateway is a powerful force to actually achieve what we're all trying to achieve here in this community. So I'm certainly appreciative of the fact that you recognize that success will come from collaboration, because we're all here for the same reason, to live, work, and play in Parksville and successfully. And so we can continue to do that in a sustainable manner. Is people like the professionals at the Chamber of Commerce advising our entrepreneurs and so forth on how they can be successful in this location. And that's key to bringing them here. But that makes just for a more diverse community all the way around. And that's what I'm very appreciative of. Thanks for that. Anything further, council? None further. I would ask for thank you for your presentation. I will ask for a mover and a second for the recommendation that the report from the Parksville and District Chamber of Commerce on their visitor center activities be received for information. Could I have a mover and seconder for that? Moved by Councillor Gren, seconded by Councillor Beal. Any comments? Further comments? All those in favor? Carries unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Keep up the great work. Moving forward, we have the next delegation is from the District Development Corporation for the zoning amendment application at 405 Island Highway East and 402 and 416 Pioneer Crescent. A presentation by Care Persloff of District Development Group regarding the zoning amendment application at 405 Island Highway East and 402 and 416 Pioneer Crescent. If you can come to the microphone, or if you're appearing, okay, here we are live in a person. That's even better. Thank you and welcome. If you identify yourself, please, sir.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. My name is Carter Parasoff, and I'm a development manager with District Group. Today, I'll be presenting our development proposal for the properties located at 402 Pioneer Crescent, 416 Pioneer Crescent, and 405 Island Highway East. I'll briefly introduce District Group, provide context about the site and surrounding area, summarize the proposed zoning amendment, and outline the rationale behind the proposal. District Group is a real estate development company focused on long-term residential housing projects across British Columbia. We are a small team of approximately 10 professionals with experience in real estate development across Western Canada. Our primary focus is purpose-built rental housing, and importantly, we build, own, operate the buildings we develop for the long term. Currently, District Group has 18 projects across 9 cities in BC, representing roughly 2,500 rental apartments in various stages of development with a strong focus in Vancouver Island. Our goal with every project is to create a high-quality housing product that integrates well within the surrounding neighborhood while also providing long-term rental options. The site consists of three parcels. As mentioned earlier, they're located at 402 Pioneer Crescent, 416 Pioneer Crescent, and 405 Island Highway. The site is located along Island Highway East, one of Parksville's primary corridors. It benefits from direct access to transportation, nearby commercial amenities, and established residential neighborhoods, making it a location well suited for additional housing. Currently, all 3 properties are zoned CS1, Highway Commercial, under the City of Parksville Zoning and Development Bylaw. The site presently contains 2 single-family homes, both along Pioneer Crescent, and a budget car rental operation at the 405 Island Highway East address. The surrounding neighborhood already includes a mix of commercial businesses and residential uses. Our proposal is to transition the site from highway commercial use to multifamily housing while retaining the commercial frontage along Island Highway. This aligns with the city's policy direction to shift commercial uses to multifamily residential uses in this zoning area. In this land use area. To facilitate this proposal, we are requesting a zoning amendment to a site-specific CD zone. This zoning would allow the site to accommodate a purpose-built rental housing building while retaining the existing commercial use along the highway frontage. The proposed CD zone is based on components of the city's existing zoning regulations, particularly the RS3 zone and RHD4 zones. The intent is to create a development that fits well within the surrounding area while also making efficient use of a centrally located site. There are several reasons we believe this site is well suited for rental housing. First, the location is highly accessible with convenient access by car, transit, bike, and foot. Second, the site is located close to commercial services, including restaurants, retail, and everyday amenities. Third, it is nearby several employment areas, including healthcare, community services, and educational facilities. 4, Island Highway also functions as a major transit corridor with several bus stops nearby, the closest one being at the intersection right off of Island Highway and Mill Street. From a policy perspective, the City of Parksville also supports this direction. Policy 5.2.6 subsection 8 identifies mixed-use commercial as locations where the city intends to de-emphasize commercial uses and encourages a shift towards multifamily sites. And this proposal directly supports that policy direction by transitioning away from commercial zoning to provide purpose-built multifamily rental housing. And finally, the Parksville market continues to experience a tighter rental market with vacancy rates hovering around 1%. We believe that projects like this can help increase the supply of housing and support the long-term needs of the community. From a broader planning perspective, the site is located within an area that includes a mix of land uses, including highway commercial, mixed use, the downtown core, established neighborhoods, industrial service areas, and nearby environmental land. The mix of uses reinforces the role of this area as a transition between different parts of the community where residential development can help support nearby services while contributing to Parksville's housing supply. On this slide, we've included several architectural precedent images for illustrative purposes. These photos are not intended to represent the final stages of the final design of the proposal. They are included simply to provide a general sense of the type of housing we typically deliver with the goal of creating projects that integrate well within their area. The final design would be developed through the formal development permit process in collaboration with city staff and the city's applicable guidelines. In closing, we believe this proposal represents a strong opportunity to deliver purpose-built rental housing in a well-located area of Parksville while supporting the city's broader housing objectives. We appreciate the opportunity to present this proposal and look forward to working with city staff and council. Thank you for your time today, and I'll field any questions or comments that you have.
Thank you, Carter, for your presentation. I have just a couple questions that didn't show on your drawing for the entire site project. In the front, on the commercial end of it, you have the budget car rental facility that was shared the building with Hourglass at that particular time. Are you planning on doing any changes to the commercial side, let's say the highway side of this project, where budget it currently exists? And it showed on your drawing, like on this drawing here, like a blue pattern off on the right-hand side. I'm not sure if that's another building or what is your plan for out on the commercial side of it?
The intent is to retain the existing commercial as is, and there might, with the actual building itself, there may be some facial upgrades or some upgrades to the exterior if need be. But sorry, I can't tell where you're seeing the blue. Or is it was it a different slide?
But you know, you're on it
Yeah.
right there. You're showing just a little blue area there off to, I think it's. Yeah.
So I guess, so some of these areas, they're just outlining the parcels as is right now. So the one parcel is kind of like this.
Yeah, I can see it better here.
Yeah. And then this one kind of extends into this little area here where you see it's. Yeah.
Right.
It's just an overlay of the three properties.
Okay.
And
yeah, that's helpful. I have to say that I'm concerned about the massing.
Yeah.
Onto Pioneer, quite frankly, is in the location right now. I've walked the locations regularly. There's 3 single family dwellings, I think, on the backside on Pioneer. And it's a single family dwelling area across the street as well as down there. And I would have hoped that as well as we need housing, that it would be done with the consideration of to the neighborhood, transition into that neighborhood to evolve into a complementary to the existing residential field that's actually on Pioneer. There's considerable, I guess I have a bit of a bias on Pioneer. It's a very unique neighborhood that houses a wide variety of a lot of single family dwelling areas, and a lot of families and so forth have grown up and come through Pioneer. And it's kind of a special neighborhood because it has, but the name itself would signify anyways, it's been around for a while and so forth in the respect for the pioneers of our area. But at the same time, I would hope that any development proposal that was actually on the Pioneer side would take into account of maybe having a look down further on down the street on Pioneer and over to Tulip Avenue to see how housing options have been made available more in the lines of duplexes, fourplexes. There's a small lot subdivision there, but each one of them contains single family dwellings or in sometimes duplex or quadplex size or townhouse modes, which to me is more in keeping with the neighborhood. This is not just a neighborhood to me, it's a community in itself. And I think that we should build on that and not change the entire temperament of that neighborhood. I think we should come up with a complementary housing project for that. I've viewed the size of the lots. They're decent sized lots and could easily do townhouses or quadplexes and so forth, would be a better fit. In my mind, that's what I would hope for this location. This is just too, the density and the massing of this is just too large in fitting with the rest of the building. With the rest of the building already existing in that neighborhood and even the new buildings that are coming up. And it's a lot of new families moving into that area. And so like, I'm not sure what your plans for how many bedrooms the block was hoping to achieve, but I think you could achieve more of a family approved neighborhood by building smaller massed units and not, this one actually showed a 4-story building, which to me is, in my mind, is out of the question. I'm just saying for this particular site. So did you consider anything other than this, Carter, as far as providing housing on the sites?
Currently, we have looked at it. As we look at all of our options, we are duplex and fourplex developers as well. So we can go back to the drawing board if need be. But at this time, this is more of the trajectory and direction that we are looking to go. But with that being said, we're open to looking down the line.
Yes, thank you for that comment. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to open it to Councillor Beal first. Go ahead, Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mayor. And I must say I echo a lot of your thoughts, but when I had heard that this property was coming up and, all looked at together, I thought, oh, wow, this will be a great opportunity to do something interesting here. Increasing residential, absolutely, great location. I like the idea that the egress is off Mill Street. But I guess I was hoping before I even saw the plan that something like a 4-story would in fact be adjacent to the highway. I think that highway is a highway in name only. It's been decades now since the province had it, and it's really no difference on the map than Alberni Highway in terms of the role that it plays. And certainly around this council, we've talked about and indicated a wish to kind of downplay that, high-speed highway, kind of a vibe, if you like. And so I thought that, well, wouldn't it be great if there was commercial down below, budget, hourglass with 3 stories above, closer to the highway end, which would also, I just think it would do more for what we see when we drive into the downtown. It would break up some of that car-centric stuff or that long strip of commercial. It would just, we look at what's been done around Shelley Square, if you know it at all, like there's an apartment building over on Stanford and then there's commercial below. Anyway, I won't get into that. And then free up that backside along Pioneer for townhouses, or as you said, I hadn't even thought about triplexes or fourplexes, which would provide a greater transition into, single family and the like that's across the street. And it's more than that, or in addition to that, it would provide something that says, we welcome families here. And I did take the liberty of cutting out from the local paper something from the school board, the school district, enrollment projected to decline. And a big reason for that is the secretary treasurer there is quoted as saying, if we look around at the residential housing going up, it's cost prohibitive for families somewhat. So to have something that provides an alternative to single family, which is just out of reach for so many families. But quite frankly, families with kids who are going to be school age and stay here, they're looking for something that's ground oriented and, that you can get outside for a few minutes or whatever. It's something that looks and feels more like a house. And so it's not often that you get this size lot coming along. Well, right now, I guess it's 3 lots, but that could actually, in my mind, I look at that and I think you could have it all. You could have the apartment building. It would look better coming into the city along the highway and have the family-oriented housing along Pioneer, a better fit probably with the neighborhood. That street is a bike route, the school bus stops there. I think that's all in the plan. So anyway, those were my thoughts when I first thought that this was coming along. And, I've certainly spent money at both Hourglass and at budget. And hopefully, even if you could consider looking at something like this, perhaps in fact, they could still be tenants and be accommodated in the interim. There are 2 houses behind there. There's a shed. There's a few other things, I think. Anyway, that's enough from me, but those were my thoughts. So I am pleased to hear that you also do that sort of stuff and that you're open to looking at what else could be done on that property.
Thank you.
Councillor Beal. Councillor Gore, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Carter, for the presentation. A lot has been said already, I think, at this table about the concerns in terms of density and height. And that's not just the concern of the 6-7 people at this table. Since we have had this on the agenda a couple of weeks ago, we have been getting emails about the concern from the neighborhood on this. The mayor touched on the unique character of Pioneer Crescent in that side of town. One thing I want to mention is the uniqueness of that neighborhood is also its proximity to the Englishman River, the ecological sensitivity of the area. This property has a few mature trees on. I would love to see and support a proposal that can retain those trees. That again is such an important character of that neighborhood that has very few parts of Parksville actually has some mature trees left. So I would love to see a proposal where the mature trees are retained. The other thing I want to mention is you talked about a few policies from the OCP, which I agree with, but it also talks about transitioning away from automobile dependent use, which we see on the highway side. I would love to have a budget stay because I've been a customer to them as well. But when we see mixed use development, it's usually commercial incorporated much more into the residential part, the bottom floor, than we see residential on top. So yeah, having said that, I agree with all the comments that have been already made. and look forward to a revised proposal. And this is important. I think this is the first application that this council has received to revitalize the highway side to see some residential. So I think there's a great opportunity to work with you folks on this. Make sure a proposal that comes forward, taking into account concerns of the neighborhood, yeah, something that works for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Martin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much for your presentation. I'm really wanting to see the backside on Pioneer Crescent kept for families and children, really. And the idea of having some commercial in the front, very good, with housing above, you know, but they'll be able to walk out at the back. That we've talked about, you know, whether it's duplexes or fourplexes, because that is a beautiful street. And if we can just keep it that way a little bit, you know, the other side is all been kept, but there's been commercial all the way along on this side. And if we can try and do something like that, that'd be really good. And you folks will do a terrific job if you're already involved in those kinds of buildings. So thank you very much. Yep.
Thank you.
You, Councilor Grens, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to our delegation. So I think you're hearing some consistent thoughts, and I see you're taking lots of notes. That's great. I do want to give you a shout out for Muirwood property. From what I can tell, it's very well managed and maintained. It's a beautiful location there. I see the pickleball courts out there being used by people when the weather's not like the way it is today. And the landscaping, all that looks great. So thank you for your work there. It's a good showcase to see the kind of project that you could be doing here. So to the comments on the council here, this is definitely a bit of an opportunity, and you're maybe stepping into the almost guinea pig situation with one of the first to kind of come with something. We've had another development happen at the end of Pioneer that maybe wasn't done in a way that the neighborhood very much appreciated, with some fast food restaurants and that sort of thing. And so lots of concerns from the community on that development. And we want to be mindful of the neighborhood that's there now while seeing where the future can go. And you're going to be really setting the precedent with this kind of project for what the future could look like. And to the council's comments so far, 4 stories right up against Pioneer Crescent is going to be a real challenge to kind of bring that kind of massing right up against Pioneer Crescent. When we see in next door neighbors right now, they are single family. They won't be probably forever. But how can we build something that's going to be a good transition between Pioneer Crescent and Island Highway? So there's some room to work with the property there. So hopefully you can come with some ideas around that, and appreciate the flexibility and the need for rental housing is maybe we're not at 1% anymore, but we're probably still below 3% in Parksville. But it's not just the percent, but it's also what kind of housing is available. And to Councillor Beal's point is we do want to make sure we have a balance in our community, and want to think how this project will fit with the balance that we need to strike with being able to allow families as well to live in the community, because we need families to support all of the other things that go on here, from running the local businesses and filling the schools and all that. So thank you for coming to council today. And I guess in terms of a question, I'd love to hear whether you've had any discussions around some other concepts that could work on this and still be economically viable. I'd love to hear about that, and maybe some of the things that have been said here, whether you have any thoughts on those comments.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments, Councillor Grens. For this site in particular, we've only looked at what we typically design and build, and that's these lower density 3 to 6 story wood frame apartments. And at the same time, the duplex, fourplex styles are what we do across our municipalities in BC. We have looked at having the apartment located off of our frontage on Mills Street, but in just reviewing and conversations internally and with the planning staff, we felt that that might not be a great option as well either, to have that accessed into the site come off of Pioneer Crescent. So we have probably 100 different types of site plans, sketch works that we have. And so it's not that this isn't option one, this is probably option 50. And there's a lot in between. So we, yeah, there has been a lot of consideration of how high to go, what to go density wise and whatnot. And this is what we felt was going to be the best for the site. But again, thank you all for your comments and providing your feedback, as it does help us to go back to the drawing board if needed.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you. Yeah. So just a bit of a follow-up that I can give you some of the feedback that Council's regularly giving to projects, but we're also very much looking for ways to ensure there's water infiltration on site, which is part of the sustainable builders list that you did fill in. So just want to highlight that again, that's something that's important. Retention of any mature trees is obviously something that we always try to do wherever possible, which is part of the character of that street and that people really value about living there. And then as much as possible, having a nice transition between the different neighboring properties is, it's a hard nut to crack for sure. And so any thought you can put into that, recognizing what's across the street and what may be going in the future, and how can we transition nicely from a massing scale and all that perspective, but also how the, and this is a later stage thing, but the fit and finish and the style of the actual architecture.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? You were good. So this is, we're providing an opportunity. We usually do questions to the developer at this time, Council, but it's important for the developer to get feedback as well. So don't feel that you have to frame it into a question. Feedback is very important, because you, us at the table, are the ones that have heard from our community type of thing. So we have to give that feedback to the developer, and this is the opportunity to do it, so that if they come back with another plan, they actually don't come back with something that they misconstrued as to what we actually wanted. So speak your heart out, because this is a lot of work for the developers to come up with a plan that they think fits into the community. So Carter's got big shoulders, he can take it. So go ahead, Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do thank you for your presentation and that you're open to having a look at this as well. I would like to, your comment at one point that you were even looking at changing that building, the orientation along Mill Street. But, I got to say, if I'm going to rent someplace, just think the orientation that it has, hopefully closer to the highway, would give you fantastic mountain views if you're up above the second story, or perhaps water views going the other way. So I think that, you're onto something there. My question, I do have a question though, and that is, you primarily work with rental and residential. Have you already done, or would you consider building something that has commercial on the ground floor and residential above?
Yeah, we have in a few different municipalities in BC, particularly on the island here. So we're definitely not against it. We actually find that it does fit well with the communities that we're trying to do. So yeah, it's something that's not out of the picture for us. And I guess put a little bit more reiteration is that our intent was to keep the commercial budget building as is. I know there was the glass body shop there, but I'm not certain it's there anymore. They'd relocated, but that is something that we haven't discussed with the property owner of that site to see if they wanted to change. But again, yes, we have incorporated commercial into our buildings, both as a part of the actual apartment or standalone.
Thank you. Councillor Martin, go ahead.
I have another question. When you would say have a low rise or like fourplex or that sort of thing on the Pioneer Crescent side, is that going to make it really expensive to rent? Because people with children are living in condos here. I know several, and they would be very pleased to be able to have, say, a fourplex or something. Do you see what I'm saying? Does that make it too expensive, or how does that work?
Yes and no. we'd have to look at what you, first of all, what you can physically put on the site. Every site is different and has its own constraints. So the footprint of a fourplex building, you could probably get a couple of units on there. And one of the typologies that we do is it's actually a stack. So there's 2 units on the bottom, 2 units on the top. But it does change the economics a little bit of what you are trying to build there. But yeah, like I said, for this site, the 40 unit range was what made this one economically viable for us to come forward.
In this case, it includes the condos in the front on the highway with the commercial.
Sorry, no, they're
units.
the apartments off of Pioneer Crescent.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that site plan that was up there,
Yeah.
nothing would be touched to the building at budget, and it would just be the rental apartment building along Pioneer
Right.
Crescent.
Right. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Did I answer your question there?
Well, I'm just thinking, I mean, I'm a pie in the sky, like I like to have a place for children and families.
Yeah.
And if it's going to be another condo building with 4 stories high, it is not as attractive as if it's lower rise on Pioneer Crescent.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just comment, Councillor Martin, so you could achieve what Carter's explained anyways with a 4 stacked unit duplex with 2 bottom, 2 up top, which would be better land utilization, which means land costs are lesser. It would be divided in 4 instead of 1. So your affordability would come into that project, be the fact that your cost of building and cost of land would be considerably less. A quarter, for the land itself would be a quarter being shared with other tenancy. So that would be your best way of getting a market item that is actually at less value than one standalone. And go ahead, Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mayor. And listening to all of this, I want to go back to, that property does seem to be large enough to allow for some other considerations. And I would imagine that, if you are able to look at eventually having, whether it be townhouses or something more ground-oriented, family-oriented along Pioneer, but I would expect that you might start with the apartment building closer to the highway, if that is in fact possible, and that it may be many years before something else actually comes into play. But I think we can all be patient here. So
Appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you. And what is that it for everybody? Okay, I just to summarize here, and Carter, I have to recognize the fact that you represent district group development, and I have to once again say about the Mirwood Apartments up on Molliet and Despard. It's an amazing project that you've come through with all your amenities up front. You've got the playgrounds and so forth, but the amount of trees that you put on that site have been phenomenal. You even put trees on a berm behind it as a transition to the single family dwelling zone in the back as well, which was very much appreciated. But the finished product was better than what we anticipated. You exceeded our expectations. So I know the district group is capable. I really do. You show a great amount of professionalism with your designs. And so I'm just letting you know, we're not just picking on you, but we're trying to say, we know that you can create a better project for this particular site is what I have total confidence in you. Any further comments, council? Carter, thank you. Oh, was that just a one finger? So that was a short question?
Yeah, short question.
Okay,
Two
short
second question. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead,
Actually,
Councilor Grants.
Yeah, I was maybe going to ask to staff, but can you maybe give me a bit of a lowdown on the Section 219 covenant you're looking to put into place? Like, you pretty much want this to be a rental property.
Yeah.
Yeah. As opposed to any kind of other.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's because that's primarily what you do as a.
Yeah. I mean, that's we wanted to come forward with a proposal that was something that was going to be receptive from both a planning perspective, but also neighborhood perspective and council perspective. And in talking with the planning department, it was recommended that was the way that we go about if we were willing to commit to this to be rental housing, would you sign or would you agree upon a section 219 covenant? So that's where that came from, was just conversations with the city or with the city planning staff.
Okay, that's great context. Because yeah, I mean, generally we are looking for more rental housing for sure. Can you maybe get a little bit into how you would set the pricing for the rental housing?
Yeah, typically market rental is what we'd look to rent these at. At this stage of the game, it would be very difficult to say what we would expect to put these at, but at the time of this being constructed, it would be a market rental product.
Yeah, because a lot of people are when they think about rental housing, or any housing, it's quite expensive.
Yeah.
Housing got quite expensive. We have seen nationally rentals have come down in price, which is good news for the average person, bad news for you as someone who's trying to forecast whether this is a viable project or not. So I guess when you're doing the 40 unit minimum is what you're targeting, you're forecasting certain amount of market rent that you'd be able to get in at the time when this is finally opened, as opposed to that you're setting some kind of price based on what it costs to build. I'm just trying to get at people don't fully understand how rental prices get set. So that's why I'm kind of asking about that.
It's a good question. And I mean, I could get into it more and more, but at the basis of it, there's similar to any budget that what you'd seen here today is that there's a cost and there's a revenue side. So when you break your costs down to it, there's soft costs, there's municipal costs, there's construction costs, there's financing costs, and you have to those four buckets build up your total costs, and then your revenue stream is what you're essentially projecting for rents. And this is a moving number based off of what is going on in the market. Like there's things that we don't know what's going to happen years out, or is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? So right now it's our best guess from our experience and working and seeing what happens. And like I said, at the end of the day, it's a moving number, just the same way as costs are. That it's kind of set to what we would expect to see market rates be at the time of the investment horizon. So if it's a 3-year project, a 5-year project, you're kind of doing your best to forecast based off of historical data.
Right. And that's just based on what the going rate is for rents right now is pretty much all you can charge. You're not actually sort of setting that at a
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a moving market in Canada right now, of course, and so everything's based on supply and demand. And what they found back east, of course, is the supply exceeded the demand, and the price of the rents dropped, typically because they want some revenue rather than no revenue. So, it's a huge risk, for the development community. It really is. They have two moving factors here: is the rent, the rent revenue type of thing, but as well as the cost of building. And those costs of building have been just unpredictable and fluctuating wildly. But at the same time, you have to recognize the market that you're moving into. And I'm sure there's the landowners here, they own property in Parksville, and so they're trying to get the best options for the community, as well as to develop the property that they have every right to develop. It's a tough one though to predict at this time, because recognizing that here we are 2026, this is not going to be on the market until 28. That's 2 full years of inflationary and every other type of cost that go in, but before it actually gets to that opening of the building. So it's a tough call. Councillor Beal, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, and through to Carter. I'm just curious, if you've also built townhouses or duplexes, that sort of thing, do you ever sell them? I guess originally I thought the apartment building might be rental, and perhaps you might sell townhouses or the like and help offset costs. So I'm just curious if you ever produce dwellings for sale.
Yeah, we have. We've had a couple. Both rental, both for sale product, going anywhere from duplexes, triplexes, fourplex styles.
Thank you. Okay, folks, I'm going to wrap it up here. Carter, any final questions before
just thank you all for your comments and feedback. I appreciate you passing on what you've heard from the community. Like, it does really help us in coming to you guys and figuring out a plan of what we're going to do. So thank you all for your time and appreciate the candid conversation.
Well, thank you. And thank you for showing up in person. It makes a real difference anyways, because we can actually open up to a person instead of somebody up on the screen. It's so a good commitment from yourself goes a long way with me. Thank you very much. Council, we have moving on, we are going to move to reports on the agenda. We have, I'll just let a few people exit. Thank you. The next report on our meeting today is from, sorry, I jumped ahead. Not that I'm anticipating. Number 3 is going to be the report we're talking about now is the Director of Community and Planning regarding the zoning amendment application at 405 Island Highway East and 402 and 416 Pioneer Crescent. Just for the considering the presentation we just had, I'm going to ask that these be considered separately, if I could, Council. So do I have a mover or seconder for the first recommendation that the report from the Director of Community Planning and Building dated February 20th, 2026, entitled Consideration of an Application for Zoning and Development Bylaw Amendment at 405 Island Highway East and 402 and 416 Pioneer Crescent, file 3360 PZN062 be received. Moved by Councillor Grenz, seconded by Councillor Martin. Any comments? All those in favor? Thank you. That carries unanimous. Do I have a mover or seconder for recommendation number 2? That the owners of 405 Island Highway East and 402 and 416 Pioneer Crescent or their agent provide an opportunity for public engagement, such as the hosting of a public open house, and provide comments received to the Community Planning and Building Department for subsequent presentation to Council prior to introduction and consideration of first reading of the Zoning and Development Amendment Bylaw. Do I have a mover for that? So moved by Councillor Beale. Seconded by Councillor Grant. Comments, please. Mover goes first. Go ahead, Councillor Beale.
Thank you, Mayor. And a question through perhaps to staff and our delegate here is not answering questions now, but I'm just curious the best way to proceed here, because based on comments around this table, the proposal as presented is not likely to go through, and we're also hearing from our delegate here that they're going to go back and have a look at it. And so I'm not sure if this needs to be put on hold or if we can in fact move ahead with the understanding that the proponent is in fact going to be going back and coming up with another proposal, or do we, like I say, put this on hold and bring it back at a later date? So I'm a little bit adrift on this.
You read my mind. Thank you, Councillor Beale. CAO Taylor or Director of Planning, Mr. Russell, if you could advise recommended next steps by, you heard the comments, so you know where this is going. So recommended next steps of what we should do to complete this application.
If I may, Mayor, through to Councillor Beale and the rest of council. Essentially, there's 3 options for council. Council could advance the application for the developer to host an open house for further comment. We are receiving comment even though they haven't yet done that. And council is certainly aware of those comments that we have received. The other option is council can deny the application. That would require the applicant to basically resubmit a future application that addresses the comments that have been expressed today. The third option would be to refer the application back to staff. That would provide the applicant with an opportunity to sort of reconfigure their proposal a little bit, and then come back to council at a future date when those changes have been made to their application that could then be presented to council again.
So the final option, Mr. Russell, then would be, as I see it, is to refer the application back to staff.
If I may, Mayor, yes, that would be an additional option than what was presented in the report.
Thank you. Councillor Grens, you seconded that. I was going to ask to rescind that motion, but anyways, you should speak to it because you seconded.
Yes, thank you. So council may recall that we had previously for the project on Island Highway that is to become a grocery store, we did actually refer that forward and ask them to come back with another delegation prior to putting it to public comment, which I think was at the time that made sense, just as this one does, I think, because if they were to bring this to the community, we kind of have a sense of where that might go already, and it's not going to do them any favors. So if they can come back, if we refer to this to staff and then ask for another delegation, I think that's the way to move forward. And so I think I can just make that motion inside of this motion to refer the. Yeah.
So the motion
We
on
can
the
defer the
floor,
motion.
rescind.
We can rescind or defer.
Yeah.
So either way. Yeah.
I would say rescind and then introduce a new motion. Could you? Okay. With both of you in agreement? Is that the right process, CAO Kaler? If the mover and seconder allow us to rescind, and then we can introduce a new motion as per Mr. Russell.
Yes, we would use the word withdraw
Okay.
because it's not passed yet, and then it would just be like it never happened.
I would like to
Councillor
withdraw.
Beal, yeah.
I would
Councillor-
like to withdraw that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Beal. As a seconder, would you support that withdrawal? Do we need to vote on that?
So our process has been that we don't require a vote on that.
Okay.
It's technically all of your motion once it gets moved and seconded, but we haven't had any concerns from council members when it's withdrawn with the approval of the mover and seconder. So if council's fine with that, we don't need to do anything else.
That is fine. Thank you, CAO. And then I would say that motion is withdrawn. Councillor Beal, could I ask you to introduce the next motion in place of? Good.
Yes, although I do hope that our CAO will refine any language as need be, but I would like to refer this back to staff so that to allow for the delegate. I think you have the word. Do you have wording for me, please? And thank you.
If I may refer the application back to staff so that staff may discuss with the proponent the points raised by council at today's meeting.
That sounds good. Okay. Councillor Grens, as the original seconder of the motion, would you like to second that or not? That is seconded by Councillor Grens. Councillor Beal, you get to say it first. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'd just like to add that I hope that in doing this causes in essence, less work, if you like, and less money for the applicant because they do not need to submit again. Is that correct? Is that correct? And also just more efficient use of everyone's time.
If I may, through to Councillor Beal, there's probably a slight savings, yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Further comments? Councillor Gore, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And through you, Mayor, to Mr. Russell. So thank you, Mr. Russell, for proposing the third option. But can you clarify the difference between this being denied? So the applicant could go back to the drawing board, come up with a plan, because we are not asking for minor changes. We have issues with the proposal, the way it sits. To me, I think we are proposing major changes to the density, to the kind of zone that they're proposing within the CD. So is it appropriate rather to deny and go back to the drawing board? Because the changes, like I said, are significant rather than just referring to staff. Thank you.
If I may, Mayor, through to Councillor Gore, this is really a question of the message that council wants to send to the applicant. So referring the application back to staff indicates that there's some positives, that it's not a total deal breaker. Denial is a more definitive message that it's really missed the mark. So the messaging is entirely up to council what direction it wishes to provide.
May I follow up? Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor. Beale.
Yes, thank you. So, well, if I wasn't asleep at the table, what I heard was they did miss the mark. So I was wondering what kind of messaging we want to give. I want to hear the rest of the council. But I really want to have work with the developer on this to come up with a proposal that works. If council believes referring back to staff is the better approach, I'll support that. But however, like I said, if we are looking at significant changes, maybe we need to change course. Thank you.
I prefer the referring back to staff, exactly as Council Beale has called out anyways, due to the fact that, you know, we're talking about the commercial zoning on the front end as well. So we were not dissatisfied with that plan for that portion of it. So we don't deny the entire plan, so to speak. But at this point, it goes back to staff based on considerations and comments by council representing our community. And so that is for regular public record. Our planning department has those all on file. So I think that should be substantial. Councillor Beale, go ahead. Still on the
Thank
okay. CEO Taylor, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but a motion to refer is not supposed to be debatable. And so I think
All right.
I'd let it go a little bit because I know what you're trying to achieve, but I think we had a lot of information that is recorded. We've been taking notes. I believe the applicant has been taking notes. So at this point, I think we have to go with what was said in the council meeting and call the question on the referral or withdraw that.
Good point. Thank you. We're good with that. Calling question. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Oops. Somebody tripped. Yeah. That's okay. But at least it wasn't the stairs this time. It is. Okay. So we are. You got. Yeah, we removed them. Yes. So is everybody okay? Do anybody want a break? Or are you okay? Okay, just want to make sure you're all good. Okay, fine. We'll carry on. The next report is from the Director of Human Resources and OHS for the public engagement regarding group benefits for elected officials to obtain approval of public engagement for remuneration review. Council, you see the recommendations as attached. Do I have a mover or seconder for the recommendations, please? Moved by Councillor Grenz, seconded by Councillor Beale. Any discussion? Councillor Grenz, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to staff, is staff considering any other public engagement around other remuneration questions in addition to this one?
CEO Kaler, if you may, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, no. It does explain in the report that we had specific direction from council just to do this item. The item has been discussed at length in public meetings since the beginning of your term. And so there should be I believe it was also in the paper, there's been an awareness of the intent of council to consider this. And just because of the timelines and staff capacity, we are required by our bylaw to review this 3 months prior to the election. So there isn't a lot of time to do any more in-depth consultation, and we did not receive that direction through the ample discussion. So we stuck exactly with what council told us to do for this one.
Okay, thank you. Just remembering some of that discussion that there was talk of a general look by council for the next term. So I just wanted to check on that. Thank you.
Sorry, just to clarify, there will be that general review of the full remuneration package, and that'll come back to council. But we're only doing the public engagement on that specific piece that was requested.
Thank you.
Any further comments? Go ahead, Councillor Gore. You want to poke that one?
Thank you.
Poke the bear.
Poke the bear. Okay. No, I was just gonna use a simile, like it's like that springtime weed that keeps coming back every year. This motion keeps coming back every year.
It's like room bush.
I'm sorry. It is, and I apologize to the staff. I know you guys have been doing so much work on this. There's been back and forth quite a bit. I'm personally have expressed my opposition to this previously about the benefit package being paid for by the taxpayers for the elected officials. I continue to have those concerns. We mentioned that a few times. Yes, there's a minimum requirement for this position. Every 2 months, you show up to one meeting and you get all your remuneration that you want. There is no maximum. I know some of us work, I don't know, 40 hours a week. You could do more. But I personally do not feel comfortable having the taxpayers foot the bill for this extended health benefit. I understand there is a plan that elected officials can tap into, that they get subsidized rates as a group rate through UBCM, I think. So there is that opportunity for us to do that at our own dime, at our own money, pay into that. Most of us at this table or even previously have had either other forms of income, employed, self-employed, business, whatever. And that's how this is structured. It's not supposed to be full-time paid positions with benefits and things like that. So for that reason, Mayor, I personally don't feel comfortable moving this forward, even though there's good parts in this. And this is not going to directly benefit this council. It's supposed to be for the next council. And it gets the public engaged. So I see some positives in this motion and to see what the public is thinking about this as well. But I would like to hear from other members of council on this, but my concern again is the same as it always has been. Thank you.
Right, and thank you, Councilor Gore, for that. And so I appreciate your opinion on this, but it seems to be somewhat tainted by the fact that those that are opposed to it are those that already receive health benefits from their employer. And therefore, they make a decision that they don't need the health benefits. So, of course, they want to be able to dictate to others that perhaps could use the health benefits because they may be retired or not have a employment that actually already provides the group health benefits. And I have to say, the group health benefits to me have the option to the council member to opt in or opt out is the ultimate responsibility to that individual council member. But I can also comment on the fact that as a council member, as mayor myself, but as a council member itself, that the health benefits are a very important benefit to be obtained by a council member because, quite frankly, we deal with the public. We deal with the public a lot. We shake a lot of hands. And the people really like us, actually hug us, and those don't hug us. But at the same time, we have contact all the time. And one of the things that we do is we go to conferences an awful lot. And everyone, after the time we come back from a conference, everyone says, who got the latest flu or who got whatever? And it's always all of our contingent from Vancouver Island or from British Columbia or whatever, we're all together in big rooms and we all come back with something. And so it's sometimes difficult anyways, because we're putting ourselves out there. We're not sitting in our little apartment and so forth and isolating ourselves because we can't. We are public figures and that's what we do. So it is a benefit to those that are applying to council that do not have health benefits to recognize that they are going to put themselves at a higher risk of actually some health effect to them. So I'm saying that it should be up to the individual council member to make that decision based on their own particular facts. And recognizing as well is that I know of surrounding elected officials in our area, such as the RDN, Town of Coquitlam, City of Nanaimo, and so forth. They all provide health benefits for their elected officials. And so I feel that it's a reasonable request to keep your people healthy at the table and not have financial hardship by doing your job as an elected official. So, but that's my opinion, of course. And you wanted to go there and here we are. So, Councillor Martin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was at, I don't know if any of you, I don't think you did, at UBCM in September. There was a panel. It was called the Resilient Local Leaders, Charting the Course to Support Mental Health in Elected Officials. And I went there and I thought, well, what's this all about, right? And there was one particular person who was the mayor of Coquitlam, and I've talked to him since, Mayor Richard Stewart. And he was saying that he felt and when he brought it up, he said, and it was as if there was a package for everybody. And I've checked with him. There is a package for everybody where he's from and everyone that he's dealt with. He's been an elected official in council since 2008. He's the mayor. He's retiring this year. He was also an MLA. So he kind of had a lot of experience. And he said, and I talked to him, he said, there has to be some coverage for mental health. That's in your coverage. And he said, everyone should have this coverage. He said, it's ridiculous you don't have the coverage. So I was just like to mention that comment, and I would like it on the record mentioned, because I think that it's important, because we, like you say, it's another situation, but it's the same as what you were saying. You're with the public, you're doing what you're doing, and you do it as, we all have, we're altruistic in our approach to council, all of us. And then you never know. So there you go. That
Thank
was
you.
the comment. It was a whole session on it, 2 hours.
I was,
Yeah.
I was there too. Yeah. I recognize the fact that mental health is a very important part of your health benefits. And we're dealing in a very toxic environment out there, and it's pretty bitter, and it's not just okay to have thick skin anymore because the toxicity is very draining, and it's sometimes we need help. And perhaps having health benefits would actually get us through some tough periods. But yeah, thank you for that, Councillor Martin. Any further comments on this? Go ahead, Councillor Grants.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I don't need to get back into the debate that we had a couple other times, as the staff report points out. But and thank you, staff, for the patience on this one. At the last discussion, I did support putting this forward for public engagement. I will continue to support that, bearing in mind that my position at the time, and it continues to be, that serving in this role isn't really a job. And so it's not quite to be thought of in the same way as a job where you may get health benefits. And I've worked as a self-employed person for many years with no health benefits. So I do understand what it's like to not have the health benefits, even when that is your job. But I'm looking forward to seeing the community weigh in on this. And I think that's a good opportunity for us to engage, which is what we have in our strategic plan.
Yes, and to be real, I do support this motion as well. I was just giving my opinion on the benefits of getting health benefits and not. But I do support the motion here because we put this motion through to get community input, which is what the staff are doing at this particular time. So I support the motion on the floor. I just had to discuss my somewhat opposing opinion to Councillor Gore. So Councillor Beale, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, I also look forward to getting this out to the public and getting and kind of an education piece. No surprise with my background, but I was really feeling fairly neutral about the topic earlier on until Councillor Martin talked to me about this panel, and it really hit me hard that yes, we are in positions where we can be quite vulnerable to the keyboard warriors out there and some of the toxicity that comes with that. And with that in mind, and with some others, I do hope that it ends up being supported. I think it's the sort of thing you don't need it until you need it. And when you do need it, you really hope that it's there. But anyway, we'll put that out there and we'll see what the public does. And it's also been very interesting to learn just how many other municipalities, large and small, do in fact include this. And also that finally, when I was speaking with staff here, that just to have it rolled in with staff is probably most efficient from the staff end of things. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Councillor Wood, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I will support it because it's going to public input. I think we all knew the jobs that we were applying for when we were running. I'm one of the fortunate ones who, my wife is an RN, and so kind of provincial income taxes through the Ministry of Health pick up, through union negotiations and collective agreements. I have spousal benefits through her, which I'm much appreciative of. But I think it's important for us. It's like considering remuneration, overall pay for the next council. It's not for us, it's for whoever the people elect. And I think that's an important part of making this table as accessible for single moms on maybe a part-time job that doesn't have benefits. And I think that's a very important thing to consider for the next people who could be sitting in these seats. So I will support it, not for myself, because I'm thankful for the spousal benefits that I do get. But I think it's important to hear from the public. And I also want to reiterate what Councillor Gore said, that all of us can opt in with the pay we already get to some sort of plan. So it's not that we don't have the option right now. What we're really discussing is who's paying for that option. Thanks.
Any further questions? All those in favor? Those opposed? Thank you. Councillor Gore is opposed. Yeah, and so we're kind of in between right now. We've gone on a little bit. I'm going to call a 5-minute comfort break, if I could. Anyway, stretch our legs, if we could, please. We got a little bit to go on our meeting here, so let's get a little stretch. We'll reconvene at 3:05. Thank you. Calling all council members, please. Calling all council members. Good afternoon and welcome back to City of Parksville Council meeting. We're going to carry on where we left off, and the next one is number 3 for reports, council. The next report is from the Grant and Aid Select Committee regarding the spring 2026 grant and aid applications. I'm going to ask for a mover or second for the recommendations, then I'm going to ask for comments from the committee. If it could, do I have a mover, mover and seconder for the recommendations? Moved by Councillor Gore, seconded by Councillor Wood. All those in favor? Oh, sorry. Here's where we're going to ask the question. As the committee has come up with their findings, as going to come out, I will ask one of the committee members to now read out the successful applicants and their approved amounts if you would. So Councillor Beal, you'll take the lead on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, Councillor Gore and myself met and went over the applications. And I would like to mention that in some cases, we found that there are applications that might be better suited to apply at the RDN level due to the nature of the organization and what they provide. So although there may be some here that do not receive what they had requested, there may be other opportunities for them to apply for grants elsewhere. So at the end of the time, our time together, we are awarding a Ballina Secondary School Parent Advisory Council $500. And I'll go through the ones that, well, and BGC Central Vancouver Island was not successful with their application. Broom Busters Invasive Plant Society, $400. Craig Bay Choristers, $250. Friends of Foster Park, $200. Mount Aerosmith Pipe Band, not successful this time. New Chantam, not successful with their application. Oceanside Community Makerspace Society, $250. Oceanside Hospice Society, not successful with this application. Parksville and District Historical Society, $400. Parksville Curling Club, $500. And the Parksville Qualicum Mixed Orthodox Softball League was not successful with their application. And this does come to the total of the funds that are available. And that's the other part, is that we get applications from many organizations who are doing great work and providing great service out in the community, whether it be the social nature, recreation, or whatever. But we have very limited funds that are available. And so we're constrained by that. And that's what we came up with.
Thank you for that, Councillor Beal. $2,500 well spent. Thank you. Any further comments from our council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carries unanimous. Thank you. And thank you for your commitment. Committee member. Bylaws, we have final adoption for the election procedures and automated vote authorization amendment bylaw 2026 number 1506.3 for the amendment to permit mailbox voting. Do I have a mover or second for the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Wood. Any discussion? Councillor Gore, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you to staff. Just a procedural question. Last meeting, we gave it 3 readings. And typically I've seen a meeting in between before we finally adopt a bylaw. Is there a reason why we don't have that for this one? Thank you.
CAO Kaler, if you would, please.
Yeah, thank you. That is a requirement for land use bylaws only. So there's slightly different requirements depending on the type of bylaw. So with this one, you can do all 3 together.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. That carries unanimous. Motions from previous meetings. We have a couple motions from previous meetings today. Council Beal regarding an advocacy for $10 a day childcare. Council Beal, I'm going to ask you to read out your motion at this time, please.
The motion is that the mayor be authorized to write to the province of BC on behalf of the city of Parksville, expressing concern regarding the 3-year pause on new enrollment for the provincial $10 a day childcare program and expressing support for immediate continuation and expansion of the program.
Thank you. I need a seconder, please. Councillor Gore seconded that. Councillor Beal, would you like to speak further to your motion, please?
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. And so in the recent budget that was put forth by the province, there indicated a pause to the $10 a day program. Now, the $10 a day program, we have very limited uptake of that in our community and in our area. In fact, right now, there is only the one provider that has qualified for the $10 a day. So that does mean that 90 families, 90 parents, 90 families, if you like, have access to that program. But there are 38 other childcare providers, licensed childcare providers in the area, and parents who are availing themselves of those services do not have access to that. And that means that the difference is that those parents are paying anywhere from $200 to $600 or more per month to provide for daycare. So having this program continue not only affects affordability for families, which is of course so important for families, but it also has a real impact on our economy. In many cases, then parents of young children are not able to get back into the workforce or may have to have reduced hours. And it also limits the amount of possible staff for employers in the area. So it really affects us on more than one count.
Thank you for that, Councillor Beal. Any other further comments? Go ahead, Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank Councillor Beal for bringing this forward, even though her motion is so much more manageable than the next one. That's a good audience. It kind of relates to, and Councillor Gren said this earlier, so I'm kind of stealing his comment, but it kind of relates to Councillor Gore's previous one where we're, writing the province and asking them to reconsider, particularly on a given subject with their budget. And I meant to mention it during that conversation as well, but this recent budget has PST added to specifically things that seniors like, such as yarn, landlines, also basic cable TV packages. Now there's PST on those things. And so I'm fully in support of, $10 a day daycare. Daycare can be exceptionally expensive where, one family member, one spouse perhaps is juggling whether it's worth them even going to work to pay for non-subsidized daycare. It's super expensive. And so it does put people into the workplace, which is great, helps them work on their resume. And so I'm fully in support of this. But the entire, 99% of the provincial budget is quite disappointing. And I think they're really scrambling to have the revenue to pay for the services that everybody wants. But I will be in support of this. Thanks.
Thank you. You got to put your hand up. Get just like, oh yeah, there it goes. Councillor Grenz has his hand almost up. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you for the recognition from the chair. Through you to council. Thank you, Councillor Beal, for bringing this forward. I do recognize an important role for our council in advocacy and advocating the provincial government. As Councillor Wood indicated, I do have some concerns around this one, as I did for a previous motion to send a letter to the province around a provincial budget matter. There are certainly a lot of folks that are concerned about the most recent provincial budget. Councillor Wood raises some of those concerns. And not the least of which, of course, is the size of the deficit that has been brought forward. I am not an expert in childcare. I have used childcare with 3 children, and agree that childcare is very expensive and can be hard to get into in certain communities, including ours. There's often wait lists to get into childcare, and but I can't really get into the weeds on the particular policy without the kind of knowledge that I think may be required to make a policy decision on this on behalf of the province. But I do note that the childcare advocates, there are a number of childcare advocates who actually welcomed this pause, because they have, for example, the Coalition of Childcare Advocates framed this in a way that's saying that the implementation of $10 daycare was off track, quote, off track, and that the operating funding model wasn't working for operators in the sector. So like so many challenges in our society, there's identifying the problem, and then there's identifying a solution that doesn't make the problem worse or doesn't prevent other solutions from coming forward. And I don't know whether this is an example of that, but $10 day daycare made a very good election promise, and I see that the province has had a very difficult time implementing it in a way that would actually achieve the outcome that they're desiring, which is to make childcare more available to parents. And instead, it creates a subsidy environment with more complications for small operators, which is generally what the case is. I list all these things just to speak to the complexity issue. And because it's such a complex issue, I'm happy to put forward as a community our concerns around provincial decision-making. But the way that the motion right now is framed, I don't know whether I'm in support of $10 a day childcare or not, because I don't know enough about that program to say whether I say that this is the solution that we should have. So that's where I'm reluctant to support the motion.
Right, thank you. And I'll just comment on that. Although I understand the complexities of this childcare program, in this particular case, the province decided to take action and to do something, which to me is better than doing nothing and just consider studying it all at once. Perhaps they didn't quite get it right. Perhaps there's other ramifications that they didn't understand would happen, but at least they did something. At this point, we're asking them to look at it again, to consider once again, because of the benefits, realizing that we are at this table, not for the benefits, what's going to benefit us. It's what's going to benefit our community. And we've had a number of correspondence from those that need childcare in our community that are very much sad and disappointed that they may not ever qualify for this. And so, as we are representative of our community, I feel that it's important to recommend that the province takes another look at this to reevaluate it. That may include those families that weren't able to take advantage of it. So I will be supporting this on that basis. Councillor Beale.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to add that I will be supporting this. I brought this forward, but also this is a result of a request from the Early Learning Childcare Oceanside organization here. And I'm the liaison to that. And we have liaison from other municipalities and the RDN as well. And so that is where the request came for each of the local governments to write a letter of support for the program. And there is a $10 a day lobby group, if you like. And they are, in fact, looking at some of the issues that Councillor Grenz has brought up, recognizing that there are some real thorny bits to the way this is rolled out, but nonetheless wanting to move forward to improve access to quality childcare for families, and this is one part of it. So again, this does come from a direct request from our local organization, ELCO, Early Learning Childcare Oceanside.
Thank you, Councillor Beale. Councillor Grenz, go ahead.
Thank you for the additional context. I guess my biggest concern is that the motion calls for the immediate continuation and expansion of the program, which that part of it speaks to directing the province to do something immediately, which doesn't address the concerns that the mayor raises about taking a look at it again, which is what the province is doing, in fact. And the minister herself is recognizing that the deployment of the $10 a day childcare program, there are some concerns about inequities of it being more of a lottery system than based on maybe who actually has need for the childcare subsidies. And so there's that goes back to my concern around the complexity issue and being careful about when we direct the province to do certain things, that we're asking them to do something that is, I guess, still kind of in our lane, right? So, and right now this is kind of like directing immediate continuation, expansion of the program. I can't say continuation, apparently.
I'm just wondering,
Bill, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if Councillor Grenz might be happier if we amended this to remove the word immediate. But my intention, I will say here, it wasn't to dictate exactly what this letter would look like. It's a letter of support.
Yeah.
And I did pass along to the mayor the original request from Early Learning Childcare Oceanside, along with a contact sheet and some information so that a letter of support might be written. But I'm just wondering if Councillor Grenz, if there's take issue with a few of the words in here, I'd be happy to suggest an amendment.
And I can confirm exactly that, Councillor Beal, when it's requesting for a letter of support from the mayor and council. Obviously, we have staff anyways that prepares that document for myself anyways to sign before I sign it off, which takes in all comments. Councillor Beal has given us the report from ALCO anyways, which is more in depth and so forth. What my assistant anyways will certainly consider when she sends the letter of support to the province, but as well, Councillor Grenz, if you would like to submit something that you should say and should in your opinion include the following, I'd be more than happy to take that at any time. You work out something that you aren't perhaps comfortable with, or to make sure always open to options for other suggestions that may actually make it more effective. So I give you my word on that, that I'm certainly open to not exactly using the words for immediate continuation, but that is the premise that we want to get to the province. How they get there maybe can be better developed by having input such as us, City of Parksville, of course, to making that a more viable and consideration. Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mayor. And I appreciate rereading this, that, immediate, sounds a little bit pushy in a way that is not perhaps the intention here. But I'd also like us to keep, and you, Mr. Mayor, to keep in mind that, as Councillor Grenz said, he is not an expert on childcare, and the request that has come from the organization here is in fact an organization that pulls together people from childcare providers, as well as liaison from local government. And they have in fact met with all of the daycare, childcare providers in the area over some time. They have conducted an in-depth study of that, as well as linking to provincial organizations. So I'd just like us to keep that in mind when we send a letter of support.
Right. And staff, thank you very much for providing this to me, Councillor Beal. This will be passed on to our staff to be considered in the format, especially with the maximum amount of information, which is excellent. Thank you very much. Councillor Martin, go ahead.
Thank you. This morning in the paper, and this is where I don't know, like the wording in the letter will be really important, because it said they are providing 10% in the province of what people want, just 10%. So it was right in the paper this morning. That's why this is happening. And so when we say not immediate, like, we understand the challenges, because they're only giving, it was right in the headline this morning in the Times Colonist. So there's a concern, and I support it too for certain people. Absolutely. It's, not everybody, but 10% of the requests is all they're providing in the whole province right now. So
Thank you.
that's what's going on. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any further comment? Councillor Grants.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think what Councillor Martin's referring to is the report that of the 170,000 childcare spots in BC, only about 10% are $10 a day. And that does speak to what I was mentioning about the inequities potentially of the system, where if you're one of the lucky people to get it, then good for you, but everybody else is still paying the full price, unlike Quebec, which has a universal childcare system,
Right.
which of course requires significant provincial subsidies. But right now the province is kind of partway in on this policy, which results in significant inequities and also cascading effects across the entire childcare industry, so to speak, where some childcare facilities don't have this kind of funding and others do, and they're kind of sort of competing with each other. So this gets to the complexity, and that's where I'm happy to support it if the letter is more directed at bringing forward the concerns from that other letter that I have not seen, and yeah, you got it right there. And just voicing the concerns from that organization in the city of Parksville, supporting of them. But I'm loath to dictate a particular policy, especially if the province is doing what is probably the right thing to do, which is taking a sober second thought at the entire policy, now that we've done it for a while, which I think is universally acknowledged as not being a good system, including by the minister herself. So that's where I'm reluctant to say, let's do this, get back to it right away.
Comments considered and recorded. Thank you. All those in favor? Passes unanimous. Thank you. So if anybody wants to take a 2-week vacation, now's the time to do it. So next on the agenda, we have a notice of motion, and there's now a motion on the table here. Councillor Wood, I'm not going to ask you to, I'm going to do like the rest of it is in your agenda package, folks, of Councillor Wood's official community plan review scope recommendation. So I'm going to ask first for if Councillor Wood would like to move that, and then I'll second it for discussion right away so we can get to what we're trying to do here.
Sorry, Mayor. Before we do that, I have a question to staff. Would it be appropriate to move in the committee of the whole just to discuss this? Because there are so many points on this agenda item.
If I may, I don't think so. And they're phrased as motions to vote on.
Yeah,
So there's
yeah.
motions that can be discussed once it's on the floor, which it's about to be. You've just seconded it, so.
Right. Okay, so consider it moved and seconded by myself for discussion. Councillor Wood, I guess I have to comment on the motion itself, and I've read it quite a few times. Quite a few hours of my life have been lost forever. However, and at the end of it, I was not able to draw any clear understanding of what you're trying to present at this time. And in so much as that we have rather used staff in the past to help us form our notices of motion and our motions and so forth.
Point of order, Mayor.
Yes.
As the mover, can I speak to it first?
Yes, you may, but I'm just saying I would like you to speak to the question I have is to understand what it is, because you have all the whereases type of thing, which is this whole background material. If you had have talked to our CAO, you could have presented a resolution that was actually something that we could fathom, that was actually doable to discuss fully, but I didn't see that. So all that I'm going to do is just ask you to cut to the chase and, eliminate all the whereases. Because, and while we're on the whereases, the whereas is supposed to be a statement of fact. That's what a whereas is. And unfortunately, some of these whereases contains information taken out of context. So it is not necessarily a statement of fact, but we'll get by that. And UBCM actually has a policy on their resolutions that they only allow 2 whereases. I think you're at 15. So this wouldn't get by the UBCM format, but regardless, we're at City Parksville here today. And so anyways, I would like to say if we can cut down to number 16, where you have now therefore be it resolved. And if we can talk from there to explain what you're trying to do on these suggestions and how we can actually make that happen here. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I was going to recommend that we skip right to the motions itself and skip all the whereases. So it's good that we're on the same page on that one, the same multiple pages. If we could, can we deal with 16 and then vote on that, go to 17, vote on that, 18, vote on that, 19, vote on that, 20, vote on that? Would that work for the chair, for the mayor?
It does, except for I'm going to ask the CAO if any, considering that CAO, Kaylor, because this is directly regarding the official community plan. And I think it would be helpful if there's some things that are suggested in 16, 17 that are absolutely not doable in the community plan. Let's not waste a lot of time on it if for the CAO to just go out and say, well, you can't consider that because it's not doable. But I would like the CAO to weigh in on this type of thing. CAO, Kaylor, if you could describe what the intent is of the official community plan and what we can do and what we cannot do, or if you would.
Okay. I'm glad I was a planner before. I guess you're always still a planner, but so I guess a caution that I would put out is staff will require some direction today on how this fits with the approved scope that council has already voted on. In December at the committee of the whole, we discussed this at length around what an official community plan is and what it cannot do. And so an official community plan is very strictly legislated by provincial, by the Local Government Act. And so in the presentation we made to council in December, we laid out that you can't, with an OCP, you can't prohibit growth. The context of an OCP is to actually project the growth based on trends and StatsCan information. And now we have to look at where that growth would be directed in the community. I think some of the motion here does mention we would be looking at the form, the density, like our current OCP has land use designations where multifamily is supported, where single family is preferred, where, high density is preferred. And so that's definitely a legitimate piece of the OCP's review. But one thing I'll just caution is we can't include statements in OCPs that fetter the decision-making of a council. So OCPs are high-level visionary documents that are intended to be quite high, I suppose, and then there's implementation pieces that come out of that. So from an expectations management perspective, we just want to make sure that the community and council, most likely the future council, understand that legally we have to identify where the growth that is projected to come to this community goes. And we now also have additional requirements from the provincial government that the OCP project out 20 years of growth. And there's very specific requirements for the types of housing and the types of development that we need to accommodate. And we then have to update that every 5 years. So before the changes recently in the provincial side, we could go kind of 7 to 10 years with an OCP, especially if there's not, tons of things changing that require the OCP to be reviewed more often. We can't do that anymore. And the OCP's focus is kind of shifted more to accommodating that growth. And so I think we just have to understand clearly what council today is looking at, either changing or amending from that already approved motion that staff have been working on to put the RFP together. And I think there's two specific things that we asked for clarification on. One is, I think now council's being asked or is asking staff to come back to you with the revised or with the RFP, which we didn't get direction on doing before. We have not issued it. We were about to, and the motion came forward, so we've held off. So we need to understand the priority and the timing and what that looks like in terms of coming back to council. And then there's some other questions around some of these studies that could be done parallel to an OCP process, but wouldn't normally be kind of within the OCP review. And so what we have with the OCP budget is the majority of that budget is for the hiring of the venues, the paying of the consultant, running all of those engagement events, materials and things. We don't have money in the budget for a parallel study or a study that would happen to inform the OCP. And so we just need some clarification from council if the studies that are being mentioned or discussed are already part of some of the other things we have approved, which I suspect may be the case. So the water study, perhaps we think that would be phase 2 of the KWL reports, but not 100% clear if that's the intent. And then just some of the other things around the DCC review, which is currently in the budget, staff are currently working on, but it looks like perhaps there's an additional or a second DCC review that would happen, I think maybe after the OCP. So there's just some things that we need to make sure after today or whenever council's ready, if this isn't all decided on today, that we know if we're continuing with the projects that are already there, or are we pausing? Are we looking at kind of preemptively setting scope for future phases, or are we looking at new budget? Because that will change how the motions are voted on. So we'll maybe work through them kind of one by one as we go through, but I just want to, I guess, make sure that we understand what our marching orders are at the end of the day, so that we can make sure we do what you want us to do, and that you're able to give us some clear direction on how this is incorporated into that, the motion we already have activated, with the scope, I think, A to J that council identified in December. So I don't know, is that all that you needed on the OCP purpose, or?
I think so, CEO Kaler, I appreciate that. And also comment would be helpful. I was on the OCP committee before I was elected official, and the last time that we did it, the one that's currently in place. And I recognize the amount of community input that was done. I was unelected at that time. But I was also advised at that time, and I appreciated being at that table, that there was not one elected official at that table, that it was all the community that were there. There's nobody there that was an elected official at the time. So no one was there to politicize in order to develop or to push a particular direction that they felt was more important than another direction. And I thought that was great, because the last thing you want at that table is politics is at the table. So we had, our committees were made out of members of our community that were very diverse and chosen anyways for the diversity and so forth. But at the same time, this is not an official, the OCP is not an official council plan. This is an official community plan. The community are the one that's going to guide us what's in it. And then when it says, should the analysis should be included in the official community plan, the new one, the first one, it's very disrespectful thinking that our Director of Planning, Mr. Russell himself, would not be already including that. Of course, he's including that along with a myriad of other studies and reports that are not listed here. So I'm not sure why you feel that it's necessary to list things that our planning department have been doing forever, and they have way more certificates and degrees that we have and do it. And they're not directed by perhaps AI in coming up with what the suggestions are. They come at it from a best practices point of view to create a OCP that is in agreement with the provincial guidelines. And that's the one thing, the provincial guidelines will look at this and they'll approve it or not. They have to approve it. So our planning department knows what should be included, what should not be included in it. So I feel that council did a good job of already identifying previously what we wanted in as far as the scope goes. We've done that. But I'm not sure where this is going from here on. You've heard from the CAO. You've heard that it shouldn't be politicized. It shouldn't be us, which brings me to the question that you actually have called this, Councillor Wood, the Aerosmith standard. Like, I'm not sure why it was necessary to put a starting, like, I guess Magna Carta was already used. So you called the Aerosmith standard, like the purpose of a notice of motion. I've never seen that in a notice of motion that you actually titled it as if it was a document. And actually trying to get support from this, from the public, I think was very disrespectful as well. And I've had a lot of complaints from the public about that. So having said that, I'm going to switch it over to you now, Councillor Wood. It is your motion. Take it from here. Tell us what you'd like us to discuss first.
Excuse me, Counselor Wood, I'm sorry to butt in there, but I just wanted to clarify. I'm hoping, I know I got, a lot of work has gone into this. And regardless of where it goes at the end, I would like to have the different points considered separately if possible. And anywhere I look, it's not 16, 17, et cetera. It's 16A, B, C, D, et cetera. And my hope is that as we look at this, understanding what can or cannot fit within an OCP, and to the extent that it guides any of our preparation for an OCP, at the very least, I think we'd get some clarification. So I just wanted to put that out there.
But I'm not sure you said there's points like I'm Councilor Wood, yeah, and yes, okay. Oh, okay, yeah, so, okay. So, Councilor Wood, are you okay with that?
Thank you. If I could speak to it for a little bit, just to kind of give you an overview of what the idea is. And I've never been part of an OCP. And I definitely don't mean to be disrespectful to staff. They know what they're doing. They've got us this far. But all I want to make sure is that we are using phase 1, and when phase 2 of the water study that we're paying for comes in, when we look at the snowpack from the provincial report, as long as all of that water supply, all of those questions are already part of the OCP, then great. And I think, we hear from the public a lot of concerns about, well, if we have a lot of water, then why is the drought period getting longer? Why are water restrictions going longer? And I understand the water restrictions are from a provincial license and have to do with the Englishman River. I totally get that. Why would we be asking the province to give us a lower floor for the flow? All of these questions kind of seem to point to we're dealing with less water. When the phase 1 water study comes onto the screen, and we see, the lowest option is $15 million for upland water storage, and the highest one is 300 and whatever it is $million. Then you start to wonder, okay, so we see trends that seem to be getting a little drier. Then we see large price tags for storing more water. I just want to make sure that the public understands that staff and council want to make sure that the future water supply is incorporated into the OCP. That's what all of this does. And if it is, if it already is, then that's great. But I've never been part of an OCP. There's new information coming in all the time. We didn't have a snowpack report in November that put Vancouver Island at the 7th percentile of recorded history for snowpack. I am not a hydrologist, but more water storage in the form of snow on the top of the mountains that slowly melts over the rest of the year sounds like a good idea if we're talking about water. So all of that new information, along with the old information that we have used for water supply reports in the past, I just want to make sure, and I think the public wants to make sure, that we're incorporating as much new information and new trends of less snowpack and longer drought periods and longer water restrictions, stage 4 water restrictions, into the OCP so that we can supply under sections 473, 1D, 473, 1E of the Local Government Act to make sure that we have the supply for our current and future housing. Right. That's what all of this does.
Why don't you ask?
So we can pass it over to staff, and I'm hoping that they say, yes, Sean, you didn't have to write all of this.
Right.
But I think there are concerns reflected in the feedback that you got some feedback. I also received a lot of feedback that people feel like something like this is necessary. Again, not throwing staff under the bus, not throwing this council or previous councils under the bus. I just think we should use the latest information that we're already paying for. No new studies, send out the RFP, but let's make sure we're using the latest trends that we have for data in the OCP review that is scheduled.
Right. And I'm in total belief that we would do so. We paid a lot of money for phase 1, and phase 2 is yet to happen as well. And phase 2 is kind of like let's not serve the cake before the icing's on it. Let's get phase two, which is going to actually do recommendations on how we can perhaps consider upland, not upland storage, just storage of water, storage of potable water, various methods and so forth. And that's what they are going to do in phase two, which is going to be done, we anticipating by midsummer. So at the end of June, we should be looking at the results for phase two, which is plenty of time to get phase two with the whole package built into that as well. But I'll direct the question to Mr. Russell now. Mr. Russell, would the OCP include the findings of KWL phase one and phase two in the new OCP scope?
If I may, Mayor, through yourself and the rest of council, it would consider it would consider phase one and phase two. It would consider the transportation master plan. It would consider the parks master plan, any plans that the city has approved or they're actively being developed before it's finalized. It would be informed by those. How it would be informed is it would be informed by the recommendations of those plans. So out of the phase two report, it's likely going to recommend certain infrastructure upgrades and phasing that needs to come on stream, and that would then be incorporated into the section of the official community plan that deals with services and servicing planning for the future. It's really based on that the official community plan has that 20-year housing need that needs capacity in the plan, and then what infrastructure is needed to support that planned anticipated housing need for the city.
So you're saying then that the 20-year housing need that was identified in the OCP that we worked on approximately 10 years ago now, it already allowed for future growth?
Well, at that time, the OCP would have had 5 years. That was the standard then. The new OCP that will come out of the RFP will be planning for housing need for 20 years.
Yes.
And as part of the reports, phase one and phase two report, they will inform the infrastructure that is necessary to support that identified housing need in the plan.
And that's why we hired the consultant, because they're the ones that have all the information. Yeah, thank you. CAO Kaler, go ahead.
Thank you. So I just wanted to remind, I'm sure everybody remembers very much what they voted on before, but a couple of things in the scope that I think speak to that are, again, for an OCP RFP, request for proposal, I know there's a lot of acronyms there. You do want to keep it as high level as possible so that the community members drive the details essentially. But what council did vote on, and I'll just maybe touch on a few that I think are relevant, was that the scope should, so basically having comprehensive public engagement activities with a focus on reviewing the following topic areas in the OCP. So a renewed vision for Parksville in a post-COVID world, considering the new geopolitical realities and implications for local economies, focusing on future land use goals and designations, which is where we would look at the scale, scope, location of the housing that would be needed, development permit areas and objectives. And so that would be all of the development permit areas, including the fire and groundwater, infrastructure and asset management considerations. So I think that's that high level discussion around the infrastructure priorities and life cycle. So the current infrastructure versus future investment. Then the next one was development goals that balance the quality of life with maintaining a complete community. Next one was integration of climate change implications, which I think, again, covers a wide range of things, but certainly would address some of the water-specific climate change issues. Then item H is watershed protection and development of goals to preserve the urban forest resources, which was a direct reference to the strategy that was brought forward just before. Access to green spaces. Then there was recommendations for city branding, and then the reference to all the relevant studies and key documents from both the city and the region, because there has been a lot of like recreation or water or sea level rise and things like that that have been done at the regional level. So those would be consistent with best practices for an OCP review. But the community would also perhaps identify service levels. So like one of the things we talk about in OCP reviews is willingness to pay. So if council, says that the budget is X or the tax amount is X, then through an OCP, you do get a sense. And if you look at our current OCP, there's priorities identified as well. So right now, there was a lot of willingness to invest in parks and green spaces and recreation. And that's reflected in the current OCP in chapter 7, I think it is, around parks. This OCP might, the community might provide recommendations to the council around maybe we only go for grants for infrastructure, or maybe we prioritize, the nice to haves and critical versus need to haves, which we've been talking about with council a lot. And I think in the last 10 years, that's become increasingly challenging with the escalating costs. So there would be opportunities for the community to shape, where that policy comes out with the council and where that then feeds into your budget discussions and your implementation. And things like, staff resources to report out or provide more public documents or whatever it might be. So I think my caution or my concern would be not to try and cover every single thing off in one motion, because the community members will spend like 18 months to 2 years doing that and having focused workshops and group meetings and open houses and all those kinds of things around the weeds that will be presented to council. So I think my one thing that I think you were touching on, Mayor, is about we want to make sure that everybody feels welcome in the process and that everybody feels like they can contribute, and that there isn't a foregone thing around we're going to stop this or focus on that or allows this over that. So I think, keeping it at that kind of high topic level, in my experience, and I have done a lot of OCPs, both as a planner and as a manager of planning and as a CAO. So I think, we don't want to guess what the community is going to come back and tell us. And I think best practices are certainly, I would say, I guess from what came forward in the motion is, I didn't see anything that I was like, well, there's no way we can do that. I think it was more like, I think these are already covered. And so that's where I think we need direction from as staff, as if what's missing from that motion that you approved and what specific additions or changes or adjustments we need to make. As I mentioned to council around kind of the scope, the timing and the budget. That's really what we're hoping to get some clarity on today from the items that Councillor Beale mentioned. We do have them because of our format for resolutions. They are now lettered. So 16 was when the whereas is stopped, and where the motions are lettered now, A to H.
Right. So looking back, when we made the decision to do our water treatment plant, or we have state-of-the-art water treatment plant now in here we go. That project has turned into a $50 million project. State-of-the-art. It's amazing what they're doing out there. And we have excellent water because of that water treatment plant. And that went to a boring referendum, did it not, CAO?
Yes, it did.
And hopefully we're getting close to paying that off.
Yeah, pretty close.
Yes, so that's great. So that went to the public as a boring referendum. Is that a high value to raise their taxes for? Because that's basically what happened. What would happen after phase 2 if they came up with the consultants came up with a reservoir system to store water, out of side stream diversion, which seems to be the most likely? Then that too would entail probably going to a boring referendum, because the reservoirs, even if it's located in the area here, it's still going to be costly. We don't, but the consultants are going to tell us, they're going to give us an estimate of what that's going to cost and give us options to do. But recognizing, in fact, that those options of reservoir storage has other advantages. A, if it's taking stormwater, it's not draining aquifers. So aquifers are left intact and so forth, and they're recharging as they recharge. So all we're taking is the stormwater that Mother Nature does, even though climate change. We just call it an atmospheric river now, but they actually provide enough water. So if we tap that and store that water, it means we have less dependency on the base flow of the Englishman River, less dependence on our groundwater system with our wells. So that is, I know the direction that this is going with the study, like phase 2, this is what they're looking at and so forth. And so by fine tuning it, that I think you're going to be super excited with what we're going to be able to accomplish. But then the public will say, do they want to spend X amount of millions of dollars to build these reservoirs to store that water that's going to give us sufficient water to last for to project for 50 years growth moving out. So I think that's what's going to happen out of phase 2, but that was a process we came to the water treatment plant. I remember it was not an easy sell, but anyways, it did. And it was a good move. And I'm glad that the people of Parksville do it because now we have excellent water. So anyways, so that just gives more context to, like, I understand and I recognize the fact, Councillor Wood, that you're talking about the snowpacks, and I get that and so forth, but that is more of a geographical area, much larger, out of the whole Aerosmith biosphere and so forth, is all responsible for all that with the snowpacks and everything. In our particular situation in the city of Parksville, as identified with the snowpack, doesn't really have as much of an effect on us as such, as per the report, because the Conoco Aerosmith Dam, once it's full, whether it's got a lot of snow or not, and it's full again, as it is right now, from precipitation, rain. And so by having snowpack on the outside can't change that because there's very little area that drains down into the dam. So, and the consultants have recognized that very same fact. So I think we're on the right track already, but anyways, Councillor Wood, I go back to Councillor Wood now because he's the one that's, this is his motion. Yeah, well, it's his motion and he deserves. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just want to thank staff for their comments. It's great if we are going to be incorporating, phase 1, phase 2, as well as, current environmental climate trends, which are already in the first motion that council passed, which is great. And so I'm encouraged with that. When I think about, Mayor, you just mentioned some of the options that might be coming in phase 2 with some more water storage. We hear a lot of concerns from the public. Well, we're going to borrow and we're going to be paying for that infrastructure. And that's to support more housing is how they're going to look at it. And so I feel like that's a question that is going to be in people's minds when we're building that infrastructure. And that might speak a little bit to the DCC, which obviously DCCs are not included in the OCP and it's a separate bylaw. But that is a question that I hear from the public, like, hey, we're going to tax you so that we can borrow. We're going to go for a referendum first. We can borrow so that we can support more housing of people who aren't here yet. And that's a NIMBY argument, and we can't slow down or stop housing. I totally understand that. I'm just reflecting the concerns that I do hear. Mm-hmm. That's kind of my job, to reflect concerns that I hear from the public. And I'm not saying either way or is right or wrong on any referendum or water storage, but that is a question that the public has. And so that's what I tried to speak to on the DCC side of things. Who is paying for that future growth? Housing needs. Well, whose housing needs? Is it the federal housing needs? Is it provincial housing needs? Is it Parksville's housing needs? These are questions of the people who are already living here. They're wondering, well, whose housing needs? And so that's just, a lot of this is a reflection of the concerns that I hear in the public, and they're not easy conversations to have, and we can't slow down or stop development. Private property owners can bring us proposals, but that's what I hear in the community, and a lot of the spirit of what this tries to do. I'd love to hear what Councillor Gore has to say, but thank you, Mayor, for letting.
Yeah, thank you. And to answer that, you're absolutely right. It is a borrowing bylaw that's going to come up possibly for it. But at the same time, recognize that we have the power to put in DCCs that reflect that, and maybe change our amenity package when a developer is going in to do something. Whatever, like we just saw today, when you just say, okay, instead of an amenity, maybe a voluntary contribution to the fire department, maybe a voluntary contribution should go per door to a water storage reserve fund that our finance department could set up very easily. And so put it back on the developers that they're going to expect it to volunteer that, as well as it's going to be in the DCCs as well. So there we are building reserves towards that very end, and that could happen immediately. on council resolution without the OCP, because the OCP is going to take a while. So your point is well taken, Councillor Wood. I get it. Councillor Cora, go ahead.
Thank you. Let's finally get some more people speaking, I guess. Through you, Mayor, to staff. So when we talk about OCP build out capacity, usually, like the previous one talks about 25,000 people is what the previous OCP can accommodate. Does it take into account the water source capacity? I know the water systems capacity is talked about. Yes, the Englishman River can supply that many people, and then there's a potential to increase the capacity up to 40,000 people. But maybe slightly off on the numbers. Do we take into account the water source capacity when we talk about the build out capacity? Thank you.
You go
Mr. Russell, if you would, please.
I think the framework is sort of backwards from what the legislation envisions. The legislation envisions the city planning for the anticipated population and figuring out where's the best place physically on the land for those folks to be accommodated. And then from that, the infrastructure that needs to be identified comes through other studies that come out of that official community plan. It doesn't mean that the decision to approve something or not isn't affected by the information that's available at the time. So whether a specific rezoning application is approved or not is going to be dependent on what information council is considering at that time. But at the end of the day, the official community plan is supposed to there's legislated requirements that it has to contain. It has to contain the anticipated housing need for the city for the next 20 years. That's based off a report that's basically there's a provincial standard on the content of that report. And from that, the infrastructure gets identified. So legislatively, it's a 180.
Yeah, thank you. Just to follow up. I think the motion has a lot of merit in the way it's presented, that not it to be backwards as it is now. You're saying no, we have to build it first and then figure out how we're going to supply water to all this build out that the province wants us to build in 20 years. So in your experience, maybe Kiva, as the previous planner and the CAO and all the years of experience in local government, do the OCPs actually talk about water source? I know there's watershed we talk about, but the water source, exploring further that, the phase one talks about what we need water from. Does the OCP actually contain those water source exploration for future growth? Because I think I find the motion actually forward thinking, that we don't have to grow first and then figure out how we're going to supply water to. We grow within the water capacity of our community, and then I think look for further options. That's how I see the motion. I actually like what's being presented, but maybe I'm not reading it right. Mr. Russell?
If I may, just since I probably steered it in a little wrong direction there. The plan would be informed by the study. So phase one and phase two study would inform the plan, and they would have exactly those policies that you talk about that speak to water supply for the city and how it meshes with the infrastructure of the city.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, I just
Yes,
want
go
to
ahead.
maybe reference, because Councillor Gore was asking about the OCP specifically, and so I don't know if council's had a chance to look, but I'm just pulling up. So our current OCP has a chapter on infrastructure. And normally in the OCP, you kind of have the background, the context, which talks about, here's our current sources, here's how many kilometers of road we have, all that sort of thing. But there's objectives. And so an OCP, again, is a reminder, is a visionary document that requires implementation of certain elements before it actually does anything. So the OCP itself does nothing on its own, but it directs service levels and policies that have a follow-on project. And so, for example, in the drinking water section, it talks about our current system. So what we have for the water supply and distribution. It talks about the dam and the ownership and all that kind of background information for somebody that, doesn't have that background. And then some of I'm just kind of get to the objectives. We also talk about sewer, drainage, and transportation in this section. And so the goals are high level as they're supposed to be. So for an example, this one says, Parksville's infrastructure investments and facilities are protected and managed for growth rates. Another goal is that integrated stormwater management principles are applied to development and infiltration rates mimic pre-development flows. The next one is Parksville has a sustainable and secure water supply infrastructure that incorporates leading edge technology to improve water quality and storage. So those one-line items in the plan, which are goals, could basically the KWL study would be an implementation piece that flows into goal 5. So then the council has to sit together around this table at budget time and throughout the year and say, okay, we believe this investment from taxpayer money meets goal 5 of our current OCP. So the OCP itself should be very high level, very flexible, but then you as council with community input, of course, have to say, okay, here's projects 1 to 10 that support that goal. Or projects 1 to 10 might support 5 different goals. And so that's where the implementation piece comes in. And you'll see, I think, just to kind of refresh everyone who is interested in the OCP moving forward, kind of refresh your memory on what the previous folks sitting around the OCP table came up with. And then you can probably track what we've done as implementation, just from your knowledge around the table. So you'll see a lot of it kind of hitting the ground, but the OCP itself doesn't do that. And the process to get to the OCP doesn't include all those studies usually. That happens kind of after it's identified as a priority by the community. And then your next step is to do those studies.
And to speak further to that, as CAO Kaler has identified, it's to provide for future growth. You must include that in the implement and provide future growth. So I can tell you from a personal experience here that the water treatment plant, the beautiful plant that we have, is also designed for future growth. There's a whole section of the plant that is already built that has no filtration trays on it. But as growth occurs and the supply of water demand increases, we will add extra filtration trays to it. So staff recommended this is what it's going to look like for future growth as well. So we don't have to build another water treatment plant. So the staff, along with the OCP recommendations, have provided for future growth of just that piece of infrastructure, which I hope that they do the same for the sewage treatment plant at the same thing we do. But that has been incorporated there. So the staff looked at that when they had that project design. And I'm sure the staff will look at that when we consider more water storage solutions for future growth. Must provide, it says it right in the OCP. So a good OCP will reflect that. Did you have your hand up, Councilor Martin? No, okay. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Councilor Grimes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councilor Wood, for bringing forward the motion, which I think does endeavor to capture some of the conversations that are happening generally in the community around water use, and with seeing regular conservation measures put into place, it does raise a lot of questions for people in the community as to why that's happening. And it's important that we're educating the public on that as best as possible. And to that end, we did put in our strategic plan the water use planning and management goal, which is number 4. One of those, 4.3, is to engage residents in the process and promote greater community understanding of water use, conservation, and management issues. The first 2 items on that is to undertake a comprehensive assessment of the city's potable water sources, which is what we've, I think people say potable actually, but yeah, which is what we are now speaking about, which is phase 1 has come in, phase 2 is now underway. So question through to staff is, does phase 2 of the water study contemplate that engagement, or where in the process are we expecting the engagement piece?
If I may tackle that one. So there's a couple of different things. So phase 2 is actually subject to council direction. But it was envisioned, we did put the RFP out as kind of a sequential so that there was an understanding of kind of how it would flow. But it really is dependent on what council would like to see. So we've had presentations to council in the public forum. We didn't really budget for, because it is very, very technical to the point where I struggled to read it and had to read it on 2 screens for 5 days in a row. Because it's really engineers that can weigh in on that front piece, or folks with very clear understanding of the technical aspects. I envisioned phase 2 would be a little bit more, like would lean itself more to that kind of consultation, because it is kind of more about options, and you don't need to have a PhD in fluvial geomorphology to participate effectively. Which I don't know many people that have that type of PhD, but I think we will be getting direction from council on what that actually focuses in on. And so I think the envisioned focus is that there's going to be high-level recommendations from the KWL study that would also then be accompanied by a report from staff with the planned infrastructure upgrades that we already have that are like the twinning of the plant, or improving the well efficiencies and other upgrades that are already kind of in the asset management plan. So that ground truths what the KWL report is saying, and then also input from our JV partners on the AWS and ERWS. They're participants in that and are partially funding that study, so they're already a partner in the process. But what we're planning to do is bring the final phase 1 report to council in the summer, with discussion and direction from council on what phase 2 should focus on. And how exactly it would play out, the timing. We do obviously have residual budget that's been allocated, but if council wants to change, then we'd be giving you advice on the budgetary implications as well. And we've had a couple of change orders on the current one to have a little bit more presentation from the consultants to council than was envisioned. I think they've come 3 times to our council and the board. So that we envision them just coming 1 time, but it's so comprehensive and so technical. I think we needed them to come a few times to answer all of your questions. But we will probably be taking more of a staff-led approach on the second phase. Or if council wanted to see really comprehensive public engagement, we would have to probably get another public engagement scope put into that process. Because right now, I do believe KWL has kind of like the PR side, but mostly we've just been engaging with the engineering side. But most, like with the transportation master plan, McElhaney as engineers have the engineering side, but they also have the public process side. So that's something that council will be giving us direction on in the summer, and into the budget process for next term, I guess.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I appreciate that additional information. So when we all now, I guess in 2023, with the consultant worked on the strategic plan, we did set out, I guess what I've referred to as dominoes, so that, we do first do the water use study. And we've done a number of other studies over the past few years, the transportation master plan, the sewer master plan, and those all feed into the final piece on the strategic plan, which is the official community plan review and update. So I guess in terms of the motion in front of us, I think it's trying to pull together and make sure that we are pulling together all these different pieces, which may already be pulled together the way they need to be, and just sort of confirming that that's the case. I would love to see a fulsome engagement with the public around the drinking water piece in particular, recognizing that we are seeing changing weather patterns, and that speaks to Councillor Gore's, I'm not sure what the right word for it is, but the source of the water coming down from the sky is not maybe as reliable as it used to be. And so we need to understand that. And that's what we've done with the study, which looks at modeling, and what the next phase is also going to look at all that. So I'm not quite sure where to go with the motion itself. I think that it raises a lot of these questions that we've talked about a lot at this table and with the community, and pulls them together into one master very long resolution. And I don't know how actionable it is outside of what is already kind of being actioned. But it does add a few strands to it. And maybe if we go through individually, then we speak to those strands. For example, considerations around increased wildfire risk, for example. So yeah, I'm a bit all over the place on it because there's a lot to dig into for sure.
Thank you, Councillor Granson. And communication is, as you say, is key. And I get it. I get it, the fact that we have the public that is very confused. All the building going on and all the water conservation codes that we do in the summertime. And it's very confusing. And to that end, because my phone was ringing all the time and I get a lot more emails than everybody, so we put out that document that was on our website. It's on the website now. And everyone that has said, but why are you building so much and we don't have enough to water my grass in the summertime? And then I just send them this, that now I figured out how I can send that directly to it. And it's just like, is Parksville running out of drinking water? You all got this. It's on our website right now. And the people that come back said, wow, I never knew that. So we have now, this is on our website, letting people know everything is involved. Of course, everybody hears little buzzwords like snowpack and base flow of the river and habitat for the fish and so forth. And it's very confusing. It's a very deep subject, but at the same time, this council should be complimented for the fact of taking the brave and very progressive look at having a comprehensive water study done. And that's exactly what was needed to happen, because recognizing the fact, we recognized at that time, climate change is here and it's changing a lot of things. There's a lot of things changing, plus Parksville's growing. And so we took the step and we spent a lot of money on this, folks. And that's why it's so comprehensive. And so they are going to give us this, and then probably that's how we got our $50 million water treatment plant. Came out of this. For future growth, you're going to need that. Okay, so now we have our OCP coming up, and there it's going to say, for future growth, you're going to look at this. But by that time, we've got the results back from KWL to say this, and how I see that communication running out to the public. Like how we do with storyboards and so forth, that the consultants would have like an open house and say, like we did with the transportation master plan. The storyboards would say like this, a consideration 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the consumers, our community will get back to us and say, this is a good result, or this is like too much. And they'll all have price tags on it. We can put in desalination if we want, right? If you got a few $1 billion, we can do that. And maybe that's going to be on the list. I haven't seen the list yet, but they do it in Saudi, as we know. So there's going to be all these things put up, but we have a study going through, and we've taken the brave step to do that. And it's coming. It's almost done. The cake is baked, but it's not quite finished yet. At least we will get there, and the public will be able to see, okay, this is why, and this is how we can fix it. We can fix it, folks. We can fix it. We know we can. But it's just what is the best recommendation from the consultants. Councillor Wood, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to thank yourself, council, staff. I think this conversation just in itself, I think the public is going to appreciate hearing it and seeing it. Hearing that the phase 2 study is going to come to us for scope and possible public engagement. I think that's really important. I also think it's important that the phase 2 study, when it comes back from the consultants, will inform the OCP. Those two things are big enough for me to withdraw this entire thing and look forward to council being able to speak to the scope of that phase 2 water study and public engagement at that time. I think the public will appreciate being part of that process. And so I'm fine with withdrawing it, learning that there's going to be public engagement with the phase 2 water study.
And thank you for that. And if we could at this very time, this is a public meeting, so let's get confirmation from staff that they're going to do that. If they weren't going to do that, that they will make sure that they do that at this time. CEO Kaler or Mr. Russell.
I can't see. Are you going?
But if I may, I can't speak to the water study because I'm not the director of engineering and IT. But as far as the official community plan goes, it would be informed by phase 2 of the KWL report. However, council decides to proceed with that study in its terms of reference for phase 2.
And go ahead now, CAO Kaler.
Yes, I can speak to the phase 2. So as I mentioned, our plan, which we mentioned also when KWL came for the first phase, for their interim report. Right now, we're finalizing their report, working with them. So there was a number of questions from counselors after a couple of the presentations. And I believe some counselors got questions from the public that they shared, and we've sent all of those to KWL. Our staff had a lot of questions as well around specific technical things. And so they have just sent back, like it's a big long spreadsheet of all the questions. And they've just sent that back to our engineering and water staff. And our plan over the next couple of weeks is to meet with the staff from the RDN who work with us on the AWS, ERWS, and from the town of Qualicum Beach, and from our own city experts, and prepare an accompanying staff report with the KWL final report. So similar to how we've moved the transportation master plan and the urban forest strategy, we have the recommendations from the consultants that are sometimes not in context of Parksville or not in context of our budget or our staffing resources. And those will come unedited as a standalone report from the experts. And then staff are providing commentary, recommendations, maybe caveats or items that council might need to be aware of. And we will then be seeking direction from council on what phase 2 looks like. So we really don't know exactly what you're going to want from that. So we have residual budget that's quite healthy. It's, I think, $400,000 or $500,000 still. That would look at where, like what we've said is that would probably be where are we focusing in? So are we looking at option number 3, which was, storage on some lake? I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. Or are we looking at short-term improving the efficiency of the wells? Or are we looking at improving the city's irrigation, which each one gave us a percentage of how we could gain efficiencies and what the costing and sort of the trade-off, because obviously we'd have to invest in the irrigation, but it saves us X. So we'll be bringing those things to council with the staff lens and just unedited as a standalone from the experts. So that's anticipated for the summer, as I mentioned. And I think we'll get some really good direction from this council to move that forward. And we are hoping to work with the same, we set it up so we would work with the same group. So it would be KWL, and we would not have to go, like, takes 60 days to go back out and get a new consultant up to speed, which is not super efficient in this scenario, I don't think. And then the other piece I wanted to maybe suggest is that for comfort, we added, when we had the initial motion, there was discussion around the urban forest strategy. So we added that specifically into that item G or whatever I just mentioned. If it makes council more comfortable, we haven't finalized the RFP. We can easily add in that specific reference in because included for us always means, but not limited to. That's kind of a legal thing that we go by. But if it makes council more comfortable and shows it in the public, we can specifically mention the KWL phase 1 and phase 2. And we can even mention, other things, which I think is actually kind of covered off. But if council had a specific, sentence or two that they wanted to put in there, we can certainly, get direction today. But I think there's a couple of things we needed to make sure is that do we or do we not need to come back to council with the RFP draft before we publish it? Because that's a new idea. And if we add in the KWL specifically to the section that mentions all the studies, is there anything else that's missing from that scope of work that was approved by council in December?
Councillor, would you like to put a motion through to suggest including that in the OCP specifically like we did on the previous?
Yeah, without incurring any more costs, if we're already paying for the study from KWL phase 1, phase 2, as long as that is included to inform the OCP, I think that's.
Would you like to put
Sure,
that in? Or
yeah.
Can we just do it as
this?
Can we just do it off a staff notation, or do you need a resolution?
Well, we have a motion on.
Yes,
a lengthy motion on the floor that
Do we?
I'm hearing may or may not be withdrawn.
Yes,
But I think that
my
needs
seconder.
Yeah.
confirmation. Okay.
Mhm.
Withdrawn.
Yeah. And then I think, again, for comfort and for if community members are expressing concern, I think it can't hurt to specifically reference that just for like we did with the tree strategy, right? We expressly put that in. And so I think that's fine to do. And it doesn't delay us any further for issuing that RFP And if we don't need to bring it back to council, we would have
Right.
to get it out fairly quickly.
Yep.
Yeah. Are you good with that, Councillor? I'm going to let Kiva write it out first. Kiva, CEO Kayla, I'm going to ask for you to read it.
Okay, thank you. I believe I'm back online.
You're good. Thank you.
Yeah, so I believe what the motion will read is that staff be directed to expressly include reference to the KWL phases 1 and 2 studies in the scope of the OCP review. Does that sound good? I'll make it sound better if that doesn't
Thank you.
sound okay.
Thank you. Okay. Is there any further comment on the motion on the floor? Councillor Dorr, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And again, thanks to Councillor for bringing it forward. I think we had a very good discussion on this topic. It was good to hear. It goes back to us discussing some very difficult scenarios at this council table. Sometimes we believe that not having discussions is a good thing. I believe the contrary. I think we need to have those difficult discussions so the community knows that this is crossing our minds. This is what we are discussing, and we have staff can provide us guidance on how to move forward. The importance of this is it eases all the anxiety in the community, like with the climate change that you already mentioned, water restrictions 5 to 6 months, and then the pace of growth in Parksville. So people think that this council is not listening. I think having those discussions is very important. When it comes to the phase 2, would it in any way, Kiva, delay the OCP process?
If I may, through the mayor.
ahead. Yeah.
No, because as we mentioned, with the election coming, we are pausing any sort of movement on the OCP. So what our staff's hope was to just have a consultant secured before the end of term. And then that consultant would work with the new council to kind of hit the ground and get the public engagement and if council decides to do committees, get those kind of staffed up, I guess, so to speak. So the phase 2 would be happening in parallel, and an OCP process is often, like, it was almost 3 years the last time. So it's very typical for it to be 18 months to 2 years, with many, many meetings. So my guess, educated guess, would be that the phase 2 would be finished in the early stages of the OCP review. And we can phase it so that we're not hitting the water issues until that is completed. So we can focus on other elements of the OCP first, where there is a lot of available information. And it's sometimes good to hit on some of the easier things first before you throw your committee to the wolves and ask them to look at really difficult things. So normally, you do a lot of background and you do your vision and kind of like the vision statements first. So that leaves time for the other harder topics to come in. So yeah, I would say that I think the timeline they gave us was about 6 months, but that will depend on what council wants to see for engagement and how many times you want them to come and present. And also, I think how many options you want them to look at. We would probably be recommending that you prioritize, 1 or 2 options so that it's not, a year in the making. But yeah, I wouldn't be concerned that it wouldn't be ready for the OCP committees and open houses and public engagement to really delve into it. Because we're not really, like with the new council as well, if you can remember, the new council is not going to be ready to make big decisions for a few months. And usually we'd wait until after the strategic planning process before you kind of get into the real nuts and bolts of the OCP review.
Thank you for that. Comment to the resolution on the floor. Yes, Councillor Martin, go ahead.
With this resolution, I was led to finding out what to talk to people about, because I had people talking to me about this, about stage 4 and all this water thing. And so what I did was, as I got through, and you've got it, and I've got bigger print now. I've given out 40 of these. That's what I do. It solves whatever people want to know. It gives them the peace of mind. I'm not then, telling them this and then they're doubting me. You know, it's a fact. It was on the website. This here I got today from, he have a bigger print now, so it can read it better. So I'll be giving these out. That's what I'm doing. And water is really important. And it's a big subject. So if people come up with it, I've got it, because they don't want to go to the website. You tell them, go to the website. Well, it doesn't happen. So that's what I've been doing. So there you go. Thank you.
I agree. That font is not friendly. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for getting bigger print, Councillor Martin. Yeah, very important. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. The carries unanimous. Thank you. That takes care of a lot of trees. Here they go. Oh, I think we have it. Right. Council, are there any further notices of motion for future council meetings? None. Thank you. Council, we have liaison reports today from, let's start with Councillor Martin this time. Thank you. Councillor Martin, go ahead, please. Well, moment.
Thank you.
There's a, sorry, there's a. Today? Oh, on here? Okay, thank you. Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Okay. Okay, yes, there's just a few things here going on. The Parksville Museum's having a great winter season, brought locals and visitors up to 15 and 20 in a day when they're open, because they're open every day but Tuesday and Wednesday. And also the local artisan gift shop is open still. People are able to do local shopping there. And they have musical events too. And they're doing, it's been on their website around these historical, as of the Women's Week. We've had, you know, they've been doing all the historical things on Facebook. So there's a lot been going on there. So, and on the 4th of April is, it's the master flamenco guitarist. It's the church is going to be hopefully finished, because I don't know if you've gone by there. They're doing all the renovations, and the hazmat suits and everything have been there fixing up the church so that it's going to be safe and it's over 100 years old. So they're going to take it for the next 100 years. So anyway, it's just about sold out. But that April 4th event with the master flamenco guitarist is Saturday the 4th. So if you want to go, get your tickets pretty quick. So that's what's going on there. The other thing is with the PDBA, they have Memorial Plaza is open for spring break, and that starts on the 17th, which is tomorrow. The kids Zoom on Memorial, 17th, 18th, 19th, and 24th, 25th, 26th from 1:30 to 3:30. So it's all on their website. And again, I would say shop local, you know, as far as the PDBA is concerned, our local people. So that's the two things that are happening. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martin.
Yep.
And we have, instead of Councillor Beal, we have Councillor Gar presenting for the Access Oceanside Association. Councillor Gar, go ahead.
Thank you. So AOA had their monthly meeting last week, as well as they had their AGM. We discussed the accessibility at the library, and thank you, Councillor Beal, for your support. She was also in the meeting with us. And she was kind enough to invite the associate director from the library to listen to the concerns of the group, especially with the website accessibility for the library. In the last week at the AGM, the budget was proposed and adopted. They went over the highlights for the last year. Commercial accessibility, I think this council is aware of. Some website updates, bus stop improvements that we got a report, and their participation in the transportation master plan, as well as the emergency evacuation route planning. So it's been a busy year for AOA, and through this forum, I want to thank them for their advocacy and collaboration. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that, Councilor Gore. And also I was very impressed with the AOA conducting their own surveys through the businesses throughout, not just downtown Parksville, but throughout Parksville with a very excellent report coming out of that initially, and is very helpful, and it's helpful to the businesses as to what they could and may be able to assist with, which is what they all really are striving to do. So good for the AOA for taking that initiative on. They're doing a great job. Thank you. Any other liaisons not on the report? None. Listen. Here we go. Do I have a mover or seconder for the recommendation that pursuant to section 91E of the community charter, council proceed to a closed meeting to consider an item relating to the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of a land or improvements? Mover or seconder, moved by Councilor Wood, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor? Thank you.